How could this be? This is impossible, right? 17 times. His divine body has been destroyed a total of 17 times, and it has been reconstructed 17 times, but he still hasn't died. Moreover, from the aura on his body, it seems that he is still extremely powerful. In the surrounding void, the cultivators of the Mountain Thunder Fort stared at the scene in front of them with astonishment. Not to mention them, even the Lord of the Mountain Thunder Fort and the 3 rule masters of the Witch God sect were shocked. How can this kid have so much divine power? His divine power is too vast. His divine body has been regenerated 17 times, but his divine power aura hasn't weakened much. The red-haired handsome man and Xianxia both had strange expressions. I don't believe it, the evil-looking elder growled. He continued to attack again and again, each time easily destroying Jian Wushuang's divine body. Jian Wushuang had no room to counterattack, he was being trampled on. Although it was trampling, Jian Wushuang was only consuming his divine power. In a flash, Jian Wushuang's divine body collapsed 15 times. Including the previous 17 times, it was a total of 32 times. Even so, Jian Wushuang had only used up less than 1/3 of his divine power. Monster! The demonic elder exclaimed. At this moment, Jian Wushuang's eyes were extremely cold, but there was a sharp light hidden under this coldness. He had been enduring the abuse of the demonic elder and letting the latter destroy his divine body time and time again. It was true that there was a huge gap between their strengths, but at the same time it was Jian Wushuang who had been showing weakness. He had been constantly being abused and had not taken the initiative to fight back. But did he really have no room to fight back? The answer was no. In the void, Jian Wushuang, who had been wantonly ravaged by the evil elder and had his divine body destroyed time and time again, remained extremely calm. His consciousness had always been very clear. In his hand, the red pearl had always been tightly held by him. There is only one principal's master who is attacking now. Even if I attack now, I can only kill the evil elder alone. However, I can't kill the other 2 principal's masters. No matter who is alive, I won't have a chance to escape. Therefore, if I don't attack now, I will think of a way to kill all 3 principal's masters at lightning speed. Jian Wushuang murmured to himself. Kill the principal's master or kill all 3 of them. If the people around knew what Jian Wushuang was thinking, they would think he was crazy. The principal's master was a superior existence. Even an invincible immortal saint was like an ant in front of the rule master. A mere rank 4 true saint was like an ant among ants. A rank 4 true saint wanted to kill the principal's master? This was definitely a joke. However, Jian Wushuang knew very well that he definitely had the strength to kill the principal's master. To be exact, it was his trump card that had the ability to kill the principal's master. The 2 beads Emotion gave him were refined by Palace Master Askance and Palace Master Watercloud. Each bead had the ability to easily kill the principal's master. Moreover, Emotion had said at that time that the pearls could kill principal's masters who had opened a mystic realm of heaven and earth. If they were principal's masters who had average strength and had not opened a mystic realm of heaven and earth, they could easily kill 2 or 3 principal's masters at the same time. As for the 3 principal's masters in front of him, Jian Wushuang did not know their actual strength, but judging from the scene in front of him, the 3 of them were not very strong. There are only 2 beads given by the 3 palace masters. Each of them is priceless and can be used to save my life at critical moments. I have to use such a treasure sparingly. In this crisis, it would be best if I use only 1 bead. If I can't use the 2nd bead, I have to kill all 3 principal's masters as long as I use both beads. Jian Wushuang thought quickly. It was because the bead was too precious that Jian Wushuang did not use it immediately. He was waiting for the perfect opportunity to attack. Even if he was trampled on by the evil elder, he would endure it. Chi! 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 Dark saber lights entered Jian Wushuang's divine body, causing it to collapse again and again. By now, Jian Wushuang's divine body had collapsed a total of 58 times, and he had only used up half of his divine power. This scene made the demonic elder's face extremely unsightly. You two stop watching from the side and attack together. It'll be faster this way. The red-haired handsome man and heart sect looked at each other and nodded slightly. Then, the two principal's masters moved at the same time. Seeing this, Jian Wushuang's eyes suddenly lit up. This is my chance. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands. He was waiting for an opportunity, and this opportunity was for the three principal's masters to attack at the same time. Only when the three of them gathered together and he activated the power of the bead could he severely injure the three principal's masters at the same time. If he was lucky, he could even kill one or two of them on the spot. Come on! Jian Wushuang's eyes shone with a fierce light. He held the red pearl tightly with his right hand and began to increase his strength slowly, intending to crush the pearl. But suddenly, buzz! A strange space-time fluctuation came from the void next to him. Sensing this space-time fluctuation, the evil elder, the handsome red-haired man, and heart sect immediately stopped. All three of them looked at the source of the space-time fluctuation. Jian Wushuang also looked at it. When they saw it, everyone's pupils shrank. They saw that the space around them had been completely sealed, and there were ripples in the space. The space ripples grew larger and larger until they formed a space tunnel. That's right, it was a spatial tunnel. The space-time where the mountain lightning fort was located had already been completely sealed off by the demonic old man, who was the Void Master controlling the supreme treasure. Under normal circumstances, not even a mosquito could fly in, but now, someone had forcefully opened up a spatial tunnel in the space-time. After this spatial tunnel appeared, Hua! A figure directly stepped out from the other end of the spatial passage and appeared in the void, appearing in front of everyone present. He was over 5 meters tall and looked like a mountain. He crossed his arms and his cold gaze swept over everyone present in a domineering manner. Following that, he suddenly grinned. This place is quite lively. This place is quite lively. When the 5-meter-tall domineering man's laughter rang out, the entire world was silent. The three principal's masters and everyone present stared at the person who had appeared. After a long while, the three principal's masters were the first to react. The red-haired handsome man immediately asked, "Who are you?" "The Temporal Temple, Batsong," the 5-meter-tall domineering man said. "The Temporal Temple? They are from the Temporal Temple?" A wave of exclamations immediately sounded in the surrounding void. Although the Temporal Temple, one of the three great freedom alliances, was not as famous as the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance and the Heavenly Ancestor Taoist sect in the Divine Beginning world, and the number of experts was far from that many. However, the Spacetime Divine Hall was publicly acknowledged as the most mysterious of the three great freedom alliances. It was not just the three great freedom alliances. It was also considered the most mysterious in the entire Divine Beginning world. The Spacetime Divine Hall specialized in studying the laws of spacetime. All the powerful warriors of the Spacetime Divine Hall were extremely proficient in the aspect of spacetime. For example, many powerful warriors in the Divine Beginning world had astonishing techniques in the aspect of spacetime. Many of them came from the Temporal Temple. However, it was such an enormous and tyrannical alliance. Up until now, other than the people in the Temporal Temple, no one knew where their lair was. No one knew why the Temporal Temple was created. However, since a very, very long time ago, that was when the Divine Beginning world had just opened, the Temporal Temple had already existed. In terms of ancient times, the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance and the Heavenly Ancestor Taoist sect could not compare to the Spacetime Divine Hall. As for the three great sacred domains of the Third Heaven, they were far less ancient than the Spacetime Divine Hall. Such a mysterious and tyrannical alliance, in the Divine Beginning world, there was not a single powerhouse who did not feel fear. This fear was even deeper than the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance and the Heavenly Ancestor Taoist sect. However, the experts of the Temporal Temple were few and far between. They did not show their faces easily and did not reveal their identities. Therefore, in the Divine Beginning world, it was common to see experts and geniuses from the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance or the Heavenly Ancestor Taoist sect. However, it was rare to see people from the Temporal Temple. And now, this 5-meter-tall domineering man before them was surprisingly from the Temporal Temple. And judging from his aura, He was one of the principals masters of the temporal temple. While everyone was shocked by the identity of the newcomer, the three principals masters of the witch god sect were shocked by the name of the newcomer. Ba Zong? The temporal temple's master. It's actually him? How did he come here? The red-haired handsome man and the other two stared at Ba Zong. Their eyes filled with fear. They were all principals masters, but this Ba Zong master was much more famous than the three of them. Master Ba Zong, what happened here should have nothing to do with the temporal temple or you, right? I wonder what exactly is the matter, Master Ba Zong. The red-haired handsome man's voice was gentle. His attitude was also quite low. Humph, you three principals masters actually ganged up to bully a rank for true saint of our temporal temple. And you still say that it has nothing to do with me? Ba Zong coldly said, and a world-shaking domineering aura wantonly swept out. The surrounding heaven and earth instantly stirred up a storm. This kid is from your temporal temple? The handsome red-haired man was startled. Impossible. Xianxia said in a low voice. Before we made our move, we had already thoroughly investigated his background. If we said that he has a certain relationship with the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance or even the Heavenly Ancestor Taoist sect, we would believe it. However, the temporal temple, this kid has never had any contact with the temporal temple. Since when did he become a member of your temporal temple? This little fellow is indeed a member of our temporal temple. As for when he joined, that has nothing to do with you. If the three of you are sensible, then get lost obediently. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude to you. The corners of Ba Zong's mouth were suffused with a cold intent. Ba Zong, you are going too far. The red-haired handsome man's expression sank. He said in a low voice, even though you are strong, the three of us aren't weak either. We are all principals masters, and the three of us can be considered polite to you. Don't be so shameless. Xianxia and the bewitching old man's gazes were also incomparably cold. Ba Zong's fame was indeed great, but the three of them had only heard of some of Ba Zong's deeds. They had never truly experienced it before, and they could not help but feel suspicious in their hearts. Furthermore, they were all principals masters. They were more or less confident in their own strength. If they were to face Ba Zong alone, they would probably be intimidated by his reputation and retreat. However, now that the three of them were working together, they were naturally not afraid of Ba Zong. Oh, am I going too far? In that case, I shall bully you all. Ba Zong smiled coldly. He slowly lifted his right hand and pointed in the direction of the red-haired handsome man. This simple point looked ordinary. However, the space where the red-haired handsome man was distorted. The entire space was distorted, turning into a spiral. Even the god body of the red-haired handsome man was distorted. No! What did you do? The red-haired handsome man screamed shrilly. The divine power in his body surged, trying to struggle. However, no matter how hard he struggled, he could not get rid of the space-time he was in. He could not stop the space-time from distorting, as well as his god body. This distortion finally reached its limit. Boom! The void exploded, and even the red-haired handsome man's divine body exploded on the spot. After the explosion, a terrifying destructive force appeared in the void, instantly shattering the red-haired handsome man and the void he was in. Not even a speck of dust was left. Silence. The entire world descended into a deathly silence. The countless cultivators present widened their eyes, looking at this scene in disbelief. The principal's master. This was a true principal's master. A dignified principal's master in such a short period of time. It could be said that in just an instant he was directly killed. The principal's master died so easily. Run! Xianxia and the demonic old man reacted from their fear. They immediately used their fastest speed to run for their lives. They no longer had the courage to fight against Ba Zong. There was nothing they could do. The difference in strength was too big. Watching the two of them escape, Ba Zong only smiled faintly. Then, he formed a fist with his right hand and casually smashed it into the void beside him. A large amount of spatial ripples were created in the void, and these spatial ripples spread out at an astonishing speed. In the blink of an eye, They extended to the bodies of the two fleeing principal's masters. Humph! Humph! Two muffled groans sounded at the same time. The two principal's masters were obviously injured. But even though they were injured, their footsteps did not stop at all. They did not even dare to turn their heads. I'm in a good mood today, so I'll spare your lives. Go back and tell that sorcerer god of yours to not have any designs on this little fellow in the future. Otherwise, our temporal temple won't mind letting him have another taste of being a stray dog. Ba Zong's deep voice reverberated in the world. Most of the people around did not hear Ba Zong's last words. But when the two rule masters heard it, their bodies trembled and they fled even faster. As the two principal's masters disappeared from everyone's sight, the space-time seal around the Mountain Thunder Fort was naturally lifted. Ba Zong's figure flashed and he appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. Looking at Ba Zong, Jian Wushuang immediately recalled the scene where he killed the red-haired handsome man with one finger. He was shocked and immediately bowed. Heavenly Sword Marquis. Greetings, Lord Ba Zong. Jian Wushuang was naturally grateful to Ba Zong. After all, if it were not for Ba Zong, he would only have been able to resolve the crisis by using the two pearls. Now that Ba Zong had chased away the three rule masters, he naturally kept the two pearls as his trump card. At the same time, Jian Wushuang was also quite curious. He had indeed cultivated the space-time divine skill and could be considered a member of the space-time temple, but he had never made any contact with the space-time temple, so how could the people of the space-time temple know of his existence? Moreover, he had specially sent such a powerful principal's master to save him? Little guy, come with me, Ba Zong said. Where are we going? Jian Wushuang raised his head in confusion. Back to the space-time temple, of course. Where else can we go? Ba Zong laughed. But Jian Wushuang was still a little hesitant. What, you don't want to go to the space-time temple? Ba Zong looked over. Of course not. I wasn't prepared at all. Moreover, I'm in a terrible situation. Even the three saint realms have their eyes on me. If I go to the temporal temple, I'm afraid I'll bring great trouble to the temporal temple, Jian Wushuang said. Trouble? Haha, you're underestimating my temporal temple. In the divine beginning realm, my temporal temple can do whatever it wants. Even the heaven-cleaving alliance and the divine ancestor Taoist sect fear my temporal temple. As for the three saint realms, they wouldn't dare to attack my temporal temple. Ba Zong was very confident. Don't worry, you are a member of the temporal temple. We will protect you and won't let anyone bully you, not even the three saint realms. Let's go. Ba Zong no longer cared whether Jian Wushuang agreed or not. He grabbed Jian Wushuang's arm. Whoosh! A gust of wind blew past, and the two disappeared into the void. Many cultivators of the Mountain Thunder Fort were still standing around. Even when they saw Ba Zong and Jian Wushuang disappear, they did not come back to their senses. After a long time, the Lord of the Mountain Thunder Fort finally woke up. Good Lord! A principal's master was killed on the spot? I didn't expect such a big battle to happen in my small Mountain Thunder Fort. And a principal's master was killed, Temporal Temple, Ba Zong? I've never heard of him, but he's a super existence now. Master might know him. They were miles away from the Mountain Thunder Fort. Whoosh! Two figures appeared out of thin air. After Jian Wushuang appeared, he looked at his surroundings in astonishment. The surrounding environment was obviously different from the Mountain Thunder Fort. Jian Wushuang was sure that he was very far away from the Mountain Thunder Fort, but it only took a moment. Is this teleportation? Jian Wushuang exclaimed. Yes, it's teleportation. Ba Zong looked over, he smiled and said, when you have reached the fourth stage of comprehending space-time principles, you can master teleportation. Your current realm is still relatively low. Although your comprehension of space-time rules is not bad, you are still far from the fourth stage. But don't worry. When you return to the space-time temple, there are a lot of space-time cultivation resources in the temple. With your talent, you can easily reach the fourth stage. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang smiled bitterly. At first, he did not want to go to the time and space temple, but seeing Ba Zong, he was afraid that he would have to fly there. However, Jian Wushuang did not dislike going to the temporal temple. After all, the temporal temple mainly focused on the spacetime rules. There were a large number of experts who had reached the peak of spacetime research, as well as a variety of spacetime secret skills. They already knew how to use the spacetime principles. These were all things that Jian Wushuang looked forward to. It was different from the heaven-cleaving star of the heaven-cleaving alliance. The cultivation resources on the heaven-cleaving star only had a great effect on some weaker true saints. However, the stronger they were, the weaker the effect would be. With Jian Wushuang's current strength, it would be difficult for him to get a great opportunity to go to the heaven-cleaving star. However, many cultivation resources in the temporal temple were very useful to him. Little guy, let's keep going. It's still far from here to the temporal temple. Ba Cong smiled, grabbed Jian Wushuang's arm, and began to teleport again. At the bottom of the huge abyss, there was no sunlight. Everything was pitch black and pitch black. In the middle of the vast, dark hall, a hazy, dark figure condensed on the throne. Below, Heart Sect and the demonic old man, Void Master, knelt there in extreme fear. They lowered their heads, not daring to look directly at the person on the throne. Failed. A low and somewhat hoarse voice came out from the mouth of the dark figure. The prophet endured the price of the principles of fate's backlash. It wasn't easy to find the location of that little fellow. After that, I asked the three of you to capture that little fellow alive. But in the end, you three principles masters joined hands, and not only did you fail to bring the little fellow back, but on the contrary, one of you even died. Such trash. What use do I have for you? His voice was filled with anger and killing intent as it rose up in the great hall, scaring Xianxia and Void Master so much that their expressions changed. Lord Sorcerer God, Xianxia said, the three of us have indeed tried our best, but that level 4 true saint named Heavenly Sword Marquis is truly strange. Not only can he rely on his divine power to recover his soul, but his divine power is also as vast as the sea. The three of us have defeated his divine body nearly 50 times. Yet his divine power has barely been used up by more than half. And before we could completely exhaust his divine power, the Azure Overlord of the Temporal Temple had arrived. Hearing Xianxia's words, the dark figure on the throne could not help but remain silent. Even a real soul could be repaired directly by divine power? Moreover, a rank 4 true saint's divine power was as vast as the sea, and his divine body had been broken and reassembled 50 times. But he had only used up half of his divine power? In addition, Jian Wushuang's battle strength was absolutely heaven-defying. It seems that the rumor is very likely true, the dark figure murmured softly. Rumor. Xianxia and Void Master looked at each other, but they did not know what dark figure meant. What happened next? The dark figure looked down. Xianxia replied, after Ba Cong arrived, he directly said that Heavenly Sword Marquis was a member of his temporal temple and wanted us to leave. The three of us did not agree at first, but Ba Cong was terrifyingly strong. He killed Xianxia with just a casual finger. Void Master and I could only flee immediately. Ba Cong. The dark figure muttered, I've heard of Ba Cong Master from the temporal temple. He went to the universe battlefield for a period of time and was quite famous. In terms of strength, he could be considered as the top among the principles masters of the divine beginning world. Even compared to the 3 palace masters of the heaven-cleaving alliance, he was only slightly weaker. With such strength, it's indeed easy to kill the 3 of you. Xianxia and Void Master could not help but lower their heads. Although they had heard of Ba Cong's fame before, they did not truly feel that Ba Cong was that terrifying. After all, they were 3 rule masters working together, and they were confident that they could fight with Ba Cong. But in the end, Ba Cong's strength far exceeded their imaginations. That Heavenly Sword Marquis left with Ba Cong? The dark figure asked. Yes, he must have gone to the temporal temple with Ba Cong, said Xianxia. That's troublesome. The dark figure tapped on the armchair. The temporal temple is the most mysterious and ancient force in the divine beginning realm. No one in the divine beginning realm knows where the headquarters of the temporal temple is. Even the experts under the temporal temple don't know about it. since Batsong has brought him to the temporal temple unless he comes out from the temporal temple in the future. No one in the divine beginning realm has the chance to deal with him. Even though the sorcerer god sect has many methods, we can't do anything to the heavenly sword marquee in the temporal temple. Ah! Forget it. We've already missed the chance. We can only wait for the next chance. We just don't know if the heavenly sword marquee will give us another chance. The dark figure sighed a few times, but his body slowly turned into nothingness. Seeing the dark figure disappear, Xianxia and Void Master, who were kneeling there, heaved a sigh of relief. Obviously, after knowing that they had failed their mission and failed to bring Heavenly Sword Marquee back to the Sorcerer God sect, the Sorcerer God was angry, but he did not blame them. Indeed, they had done their best. Jian Wushuang was just too difficult to deal with. It was a dark and boundless void. They had reached the edge of the first heaven. Jian Wushuang followed Batsong and teleported almost 100 times to get here. Batsong could teleport hundreds of times. He could travel trillions of miles and teleport hundreds of times. It was a long journey. If Jian Wushuang traveled on his own, he would not be able to get there without the help of the space passage for decades. However, he arrived here in just a moment through teleportation. Here we are. Batsong and Jian Wushuang appeared in the dark void. After they appeared, Jian Wushuang looked at the dark void in front of him with some confusion. Master Batsong, the temporal temple is here? Jian Wushuang was extremely astonished. The dark void in front of him was filled with nothingness, but it did not look like the nest of a force at all. Of course, the space-time temple is not here. This void is just one of the sensing points to enter the temporal temple, Batsong said. Sensing point. Jian Wushuang was even more confused. Our temporal temple specializes in the principles of spacetime. We have already reached the peak in the use of spacetime. Our lair is in an extremely special spacetime, Batsong explained. This special spacetime is not a mystic realm of heaven and earth. It is even beyond the divine beginning world. In short, this special spacetime is hidden in the divine beginning world, but no one can find it. No one can find it? Jian Wushuang was stunned. In that case, how can we go to the temporal temple? Of course, there is a way. Batsong smiled and waved his hand. A strange space-time fluctuation spread out. After the space-time fluctuation spread out, a unique space-time passage slowly took shape in the void in front of Jian Wushuang. This is the tunnel leading to the temporal temple, Batsong said. Of course, this tunnel cannot be formed so easily. Several conditions must be met at the same time. First, the space tunnel can only be formed at the sensing point. As I said, the temporal temple is in an extremely unique spacetime, which is incompatible with the divine beginning world. Under normal circumstances, it's almost impossible to enter this unique spacetime from the divine beginning world. However, the founder of the temporal temple, the temple master, found a way to connect the temporal temple is in with the divine beginning world. Then, he set up some sensing points in some places in the divine beginning world. These sensing points can be connected to the spacetime where the temporal temple is located. For example, the void where you are now is one of the sensing points. The second condition is that only the core members of the temporal temple will know how to connect to the spacetime where the temporal temple is located and form a spacetime tunnel. As for the third condition, it's even more demanding. You need to have a high level of comprehension of the spacetime principles, or even a complete comprehension of the entire spacetime principles before you can successfully form this spacetime tunnel. In other words, even if you're a core member of the temporal temple, if you haven't completely comprehended the spacetime principles, you won't be able to enter the temporal temple by yourself. If you want to enter, you can only send a message to the senior experts of the temporal temple, asking them to act and lead you in. Is that so? Jian Wushuang could not help praising. At the same time, he also understood why the temporal temple had existed in the divine beginning world for so many years, but no one knew where its lair was. It turned out that the lair of the temporal temple was so well hidden. Let's go, follow me, Batsong said and led Jian Wushuang into the temporal tunnel. With a flash of light, Jian Wushuang reappeared in a vast sea. The sea was vast and calm. At first glance, it looked no different from an ordinary sea. However, Jian Wushuang could clearly sense that the water in this sea was not ordinary water at all. It was endless divine power. Yes, it was divine power. This vast sea was all formed by divine power. This divine power. Jian Wushuang looked at the sea below in astonishment. Suddenly, his body shook again. No, not only the seawater but the surrounding space. This space seems to be different from the outside world. It was different. Jian Wushuang found that the space he was in now seemed to be more stable than the outside world, and it was much more stable. How can this be? How can this special space be more stable than the divine beginning realm? Jian Wushuang exclaimed. What's the big deal? Ba Cong smiled. The divine beginning realm is indeed a huge thing, and its heavenly will is omnipotent. However, the divine beginning realm is a little too big. It's impossible to completely stabilize the space in such a big territory. It's fine in the third heaven, but if you go beyond the third heaven, those places at the edge, such as the endless territory, it doesn't even involve the will of the heavenly Tao, so the space is not stable. But the temporal temple is located in is different. Therefore, the temple master who created this space-time might not be as powerful as the will of the heavenly Tao in the divine beginning world. However, our space-time is much smaller, so it's easier to control and stabilize it, Ba Cong said. I see. Jian Wushuang nodded secretly. He also understood what Ba Cong meant. Little guy, you have just entered this space-time. What you have seen is just some insignificant means of this space-time. Later, you will follow me to the space-time island. When we arrive there, you will be truly amazed. There are many incredible things on the space-time island in the outside world, Ba Cong said with a smile. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang's eyes became full of anticipation. He was indeed looking forward to the time-space island. Let's go. Ba Cong waved his hand and said at the same time, it's still a long way from here to the time-space island. If you have any questions, just ask. I'm only responsible for bringing you to the time-space island. When we get to the island, I won't bother with you anymore. Jian Wushuang was stunned. After a moment of silence, he immediately spoke. Lord Ba Cong, there is indeed something I don't understand. It has nothing to do with the time-space island. I just want to ask, how did you know that I was in danger and come to rescue me? Rescue? Ba Cong smiled. Little guy, don't misunderstand. I didn't know that you were in danger. As for why I came in time, it was purely a coincidence. Just a coincidence? Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. How did you find me, Lord Ba Cong? Jian Wushuang really wanted to know. Not only could Ba Cong find him, but the three principals masters who had come to capture him also did not know how they found him. Hearing Jian Wushuang's words, Ba Cong laughed. Little guy, you have underestimated this world. Do you think that as long as you are careful and don't reveal your strength and skills, and go through a disguise, no one will be able to find you? You are too naive. Let me tell you, this world is far from as simple as you think. There are all kinds of methods. Although you have tried your best to hide your body, you still have a way to find your specific location. For example, there is an extremely special treasure in my temporal temple. It was this special treasure that helped my temporal temple find you. Of course, the reason why I was able to find you was because you have cultivated the temporal divine art of my temporal temple and have a relationship with my temporal temple. That's why I was able to find you through that special treasure. But if it were someone else who had nothing to do with the temporal temple, they wouldn't be able to find it even with the help of the treasure. There's such a treasure? Jian Wushuang was extremely surprised. Of course there is. Ba Cong smiled. As for the three rule masters who came to deal with you, they should be from the Sorcerer God sect. Sorcerer God sect? Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes. As far as I know, there is a mysterious prophet in the Sorcerer God sect. No one knows how strong he is, but his comprehension of the principles of fate is extremely high. Ba Cong said. The principles of fate? Jian Wushuang was stunned. There are principles in fate. Why haven't I heard of it before? Principles of fate is one of the rules of heaven and earth. It's extremely mysterious and terrifying. In fact, There are many principles of heaven and earth. You only come into contact with some common rules. It's easier to comprehend these common rules, but there are also some unorthodox rules. Although few people comprehend them, it doesn't mean that they are not strong. For example, the principles of death, the principles of karma, the law of life and death, and so on. The principles of fate is a kind of unorthodox but terrifying principle. Even in the entire divine beginning realm, there are only a few people who can comprehend the law of fate. As for those who can comprehend the principles of fate to an extremely high level, there are almost none. That prophet from the sorcerer god sect should be the only person I know who has comprehended the principles of fate to an extremely high level. When he meditates on fate, he can sense your existence and your specific location according to the river of fate. Naturally, the sorcerer god sect will be able to find you, Batsong said. Jian Wushuang understood and had a new understanding of this world. By the way, since there are people in the sorcerer god sect who can find me through the river of fate, then the three saint realms or the power of the will of heavenly Tao will be able to find me easily, Jian Wushuang said with a frown. 3 saint realms. Batsong smiled. Although there are many experts in the 3 saint realms, no one has reached an extremely high level of comprehension of the principles of fate. How can they find you? As for the power of the will of heaven, little guy, let me tell you, in the divine beginning world, you don't have to take the power of the will of heaven too seriously. What? Jian Wushuang was stunned. Don't take the power of the will of heaven too seriously. The will of the heavenly Tao in the divine beginning realm seems to be high and mighty, but in reality, there are many restrictions. These restrictions make the will of the heavenly Tao far less terrifying than you think. Of course, the power of the will of the heavenly Tao is omnipotent to you immortal saints or existences that are even weaker than them. However, once a cultivator reaches the level of a principles master, they no longer need to worry about the will of the heavenly Tao. Principles masters control a complete set of principles and are extremely powerful. The power of the will of the heavenly Tao alone is not enough to kill a principles master, Batsong said. The power of the will of the heavenly Tao in the divine beginning world can't even kill a principles master? Jian Wushuang was stunned. What, you don't believe me? Batsong smiled. That's right. Your level is still too low. When you grow up and reach the level of a principles master, you won't care about the will of the heavenly Tao like other principles masters. If you reach the peak like Temple Master, Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master, and the founder of the Divine Ancestor Taoist sect, the power of the will of the heavenly Tao will be nothing but a joke in front of you. Of course, although the will of the heavenly Tao can't do anything to the principles master, it can kill the principles master with the help of others. For example, the 3 masters of the saint realm in the 3 saint realms were able to become the principles masters because of the will of the heavenly Tao, which allowed them to surpass the principles masters. Jian Wushuang suddenly understood. Indeed, if the will of heavenly Tao in the divine beginning world was omnipotent, it should be easy for the will of heavenly Tao to find him. But in fact, the will of heavenly Tao could not find him unless he revealed his perfect life level again. The space-time island is ahead, Batsong suddenly said. Jian Wushuang immediately looked up. At the end of the sea ahead, a huge and boundless island appeared in front of him. The island could not be seen with the naked eye. Jian Wushuang was still some distance away from the island, but the moment he saw the island, he was attracted by the thing on the island. What is that? Jian Wushuang looked at the huge monster lying on the island with a trace of shock. The monster occupied 1/10 of the entire island and was extremely tall. Although it was quite far away, Jian Wushuang could still see clearly that it should be a huge exotic beast. This exotic beast was covered in transparent, glass-like scales, densely packed, and its body structure was quite strange. It had 4 legs and 2 sharp claws. The head of the exotic beast was a bit like a snake, however, it was more domineering than a snake. Ha! Jian Wushuang stared at the huge beast. Even though it was far away, he could still feel a large amount of the power of space-time principles from it. It's so rich in the power of space-time principles. What kind of beast is it? Jian Wushuang exclaimed. It's a space-time beast god. Have you heard of it? Batsong looked over. Space-time beast god? Jian Wushuang frowned. When the divine beginning realm was first established, many powerful exotic beasts and special life forms were born. Some life forms were born with the principles of heaven and earth as one body and were favored by the principles of heaven and earth. This space-time beast god is one of them. It was born with complete control over the principles of space and time. Its divine body, its bones, blood, and even any part of its divine body all contain the majestic power of the principles of space and time. It will be of great help to cultivators who are comprehending the principles of space and time. Therefore, every part of the body of the space-time beast god is extremely precious in the divine beginning realm. A random scale on its body can be sold for at least billions of holy elixirs at the auction. Batsong said. A scale is so precious? Jian Wushuang was shocked. To the naked eye, this enormous space-time beast god had more than a few densely packed scales on its body. If one scale was worth billions of holy elixirs, then all of these scales added together. Its value was simply an astronomical figure. Of course, a complete space-time beast god was an incredible existence and could not be measured by its value. Lord Batsong, how did this space-time beast god appear on the space-time island? Also, is this space-time beast god alive or dead? Jian Wushuang could not help asking. Many years ago, Temple Master deliberately found a way to bring this space-time beast god to the space-time island. As for whether he is alive or dead, guess. Batsong gave a strange smile. Jian Wushuang's heart skipped a beat. Well, follow me into the space-time island first. Batsong smiled. Jian Wushuang immediately followed Batsong into the time-space island. On the huge and boundless island, there were mountains, rivers, and peaks. And in the very center of the island, there is a chain of buildings, and the strange thing is, these buildings, including every tree, every weed, even every stone on the island, all seem to contain the power of time and space. Here, it was like a sea of time and space. Along the way, Jian Wushuang looked around curiously. What made Jian Wushuang feel strange was that he had been on this space-time island for a long time. Now that he was in front of the palaces, he did not meet anyone on the way. The entire space-time island. It seemed that there was no one around. It was very quiet. Only when Jian Wushuang stepped into the palaces did a figure rise. Lord Batsong. It was an elder with a childlike face and white hair. His aura was very faint, but Jian Wushuang could tell that he was also a principal's master. The fact that a principal's master called Batsong Lord was enough to show Batsong's strength. Chunyang, haven't you been in closed-door cultivation? How come you have time to come out? Batsong looked at the elder with a childlike face and white hair. I've been in closed-door cultivation for too long, and I haven't made any progress. I might as well go to the world and see if I can make a breakthrough. The white-haired elder, Chunyang Master, smiled and then looked at Jian Wushuang. Who is this little guy? His name is Heavenly Sword Marquis. He was just brought here from the outside. He is also a member of the Temporal Temple. Moreover, he has cultivated the space-time divine skill, Batsong said. Oh! Lord Chunyang's eyes immediately lit up. He then flipped his hand and took out a drop of sand that was emitting a strange light. Young friend, it's our first time meeting. Please accept this small gift. Lord Chunyang handed the sand to Jian Wushuang. Space-time sand. Batsong looked at the sand that Chunyang Master had taken out, and a strange look flashed across his eyes. Chunyang, you're quite willing to part with it. If this space-time sand were to be sold on the market, it could be sold for 7 to 8 billion holy elixirs. If you're lucky, it could even be sold for 10 billion holy elixirs, but you actually took it out so casually. Haha, it's just a small thing. It's not worth mentioning. Master Chunyang laughed heartily. Jian Wushuang was a little dumbfounded at this moment. He looked at the strange sand in front of him, somewhat at a loss. This sand was worth 10 billion holy elixirs? Moreover, he had never seen Master Chunyang before, right? This was only their first meeting. Since they had just met, Master Chunyang had given him such a valuable treasure as a gift? Even a principal's master would not be so rich. Little guy, this is a small gift from Chunyang. Please accept it, Batsong said. Jian Wushuang did not reject Batsong's offer. Thank you, Mr. Qinyang. Don't call me Mr. Qinyang. If you don't mind, you can call me Brother Qinyang from now on. I have something to do, so I'll leave first. Next time, I'll have a drink with you, Master Qinyang said. Then he flew to the side. After Master Qinyang left, Qinyang is a good man. Batsong curled his lips. Master Batsong, how can Mr. Qinyang be so generous? Jian Wushuang asked. Generous? He is not so generous to others, but you are different, Batsong said. I've just said that you have cultivated the space-time divine skill. In the temporal temple, anyone who is qualified to cultivate the space-time divine skill is destined to have a super talent in the space-time Tao. With the careful cultivation of our temporal temple, such a genius is more than 90% likely to become a top expert in the future and definitely stronger than him. Because of this, he has the opportunity to befriend you. He will give you the space-time sand as a gift so that you will remember this favor. In the future, when you grow up, if he encounters any trouble and asks for your help, I'm afraid you won't be able to refuse. Even if you take 10,000 steps back, if you don't live up to your expectations and fail to become a top expert in the future, or if you die halfway, he will only waste a piece of space-time sand. A piece of space-time sand is nothing to a principles master like him, who is proficient in the principles of space-time. Is that so? Jian Wushuang understood. But then he asked, Master Batsong, you just said that in the temporal temple, everyone who has cultivated the space-time divine skill is extremely talented and has great potential. Don't tell me that most of the experts in the temporal temple have never cultivated this divine skill. Of course. Batsong nodded. Although the temporal divine palace is one of the three major free alliances in the divine beginning realm, it is different from the heaven-cleaving alliance and the heavenly ancestor Taoist sect. There are very few cultivators in the temporal divine palace. Not to mention the heaven-cleaving alliance and the heavenly ancestor Taoist sect, there are more cultivators in any force or sect in the divine beginning realm than in the time and space divine palace. However, our temporal divine palace focuses on the quality of the cultivators and does not care about the quantity. Therefore, even if you go to the space-time island, you will not see many cultivators. Among the many cultivators under the command of the temporal temple, there are only 20 or so who have the ability to cultivate the temporal divine skill. There are only 20 or so people in the entire temporal temple who have cultivated the temporal divine skill? Jian Wushuang was stunned. Well, let's not talk about this. Let's go. Temple Master Bai Xing has been waiting for a long time, Batsong said. Temple Master White Star? Jian Wushuang repeated the name. Under the guidance of Batsong, Jian Wushuang soon arrived at a courtyard. Beside the lake in the middle of the courtyard, a red-clothed woman was quietly fishing. When Batsong and Jian Wushuang arrived at the courtyard, the lake was still calm and without any ripples. Temple Master White Star, I have brought this little guy here, Batsong said in a loud voice. The red-clothed woman who was sitting quietly turned her head slowly, and a beautiful face appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. This face was not only beautiful but also extremely noble. It was as if it did not exist in the mortal world, making one's heart waver. Little guy, let me introduce you. This is Temple Master Bai Xing. Temple Master Bai Xing is the deputy temple master of our temporal temple. As for Temple Master, he has been wandering in the universe battlefield for a long time and has not shown his face for a long time. When Temple Master is not around, Temple Master Bai Xing is usually in charge of many things in the temporal temple, Batsong said. Heavenly Sword Marquis. Greetings, Temple Master Bai Xing. Jian Wushuang immediately bowed respectfully. Little one, welcome to the time-space island. Temple Master Bai Xing smiled at Jian Wushuang. At the same time, she put down the fishing rod in her hand, stood up slowly, and walked toward Jian Wushuang. She did not stop until she was less than a meter away from Jian Wushuang. Temple Master Bai Xing stared at Jian Wushuang with her gem-like eyes. I've seen your mirror image. You killed a rank 7 true saint with your rank 4 true saint realm cultivation. Your talent is amazing. I've never seen it in the history of our temporal temple. I was just lucky, Jian Wushuang said humbly. Maybe. Temple Master Bai Xing raised her eyebrows and asked, "How did you master the space-time divine skill of our temporal temple?" "Through it." Jian Wushuang flipped his hand and took out a strange gold stone. At first glance, this gold stone looked no different from an ordinary gold stone. However, when they saw this gold stone, Temple Master Bai Xing and Ba Zong's pupils shrank. Space-time gold stone. This is the space-time gold stone left by Temple Master himself. Temple Master Bai Xing looked at Jian Wushuang with sparkling eyes. "Little guy, it seems that I have underestimated your talent in space-time principles." The Temple Master personally refined this space-time gold stone. Back then, the Temple Master had refined 3 such gold stones. He originally wanted to use these 3 gold stones to select disciples, but because no one had been able to comprehend the space-time divine skill through these gold stones for a long time, he gave up. After so many years, these 3 gold stones have long been lost in the divine beginning realm. I didn't expect that you could actually get one. Moreover, you were able to comprehend the space-time divine technique inside through this gold stone. It's truly amazing. It's a pity that Lord Palace Master has always been in the universe battlefield, and he gave up the idea of using this gold stone to take in a disciple a long time ago. Otherwise, if he knew that you had comprehended the space-time divine technique inside through the space-time gold stone, he might really take you in as a disciple. Space-time Temple Master has accepted me as his disciple? Jian Wushuang's eyes darted around. Space-time Temple Master was a super expert who stood at the top of the pyramid in the divine beginning realm. Even the will of the heavenly Tao had to retreat in front of him. Even the 3 masters of the Saint Realm in the 3 Saint Realms, who stood high above, did not dare to be presumptuous in front of Space-time Temple Master. As for ordinary Principles Masters, they had to kneel in front of Space-time Temple Master. Such a supreme existence was already at the invincible level. In the divine beginning realm, the only people who could compete with him were the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master and the founder of the Divine Ancestor Taoist sect. How could such a supreme existence accept him as a disciple? If it were an ordinary person, they would be overjoyed. However, Jian Wushuang appeared indifferent. Moreover, the Temporal Temple Master had long given up the idea of using the space-time stone to accept disciples. "Little guy, although the Temple Master might not accept you as a disciple, you have already proved your talent in space-time by comprehending the space-time divine skill in the time-space stone comprehension stage. As long as you cultivate hard in the future, your achievements will not be too bad under the cultivation of the resources of our temporal temple," Ba Zong said. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. "By the way, there's one more thing that I need to verify," Temple Master Bai Xing suddenly said. "Verify what?" Jian Wushuang was puzzled. "I saw your fight before. Your swordsmanship combined perfectly with the space-time principles. It seems to be quite exquisite. I want to see it with my own eyes," Temple Master Bai Xing said with a smile. Hearing Temple Master Bai Xing's words, Ba Zong, who was beside him, had a strange look on his face. Of course, he knew why Temple Master Bai Xing did this. "Sure." Jian Wushuang nodded. Temple Master Bai Xing immediately waved his hand. With this simple gesture, a separate space-time appeared around him. Although this space-time was not big, it was enough for Jian Wushuang to display it to his heart's content. With one hand, a single space-time was formed. "Temple Master Bai Xing is so powerful," Jian Wushuang exclaimed. However, he could understand that the Temporal Temple was one of the 3 freedom alliances in the divine beginning world. Since Temple Master Bai Xing was able to become the Deputy Temple Master of the Temporal Temple, she was in charge of most of the matters in the Temporal Temple. Her strength must be extraordinary. Jian Wushuang estimated that Temple Master Bai Xing's strength was at least as strong as the 3 Palace Masters of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. Jian Wushuang, Temple Master Bai Xing, and Ba Zong had already stepped into this separate space-time. "Little guy, show your swordsmanship to your heart's content. Don't be afraid." Temple Master Bai Xing stood there and looked at Jian Wushuang with a smile. "Yes." Jian Wushuang nodded. With a flip of his hand, the Blood Mountain sword appeared in his hand. Looking at Temple Master Bai Xing in front of him, a trace of excitement flashed in Jian Wushuang's eyes. It was a great blessing for Jian Wushuang to be able to fight with an expert of Temple Master Bai Xing's level. Whoosh! Jian Wushuang moved directly. His body swayed, and he immediately performed the silver light movement technique. He easily appeared in front of Temple Master Bai Xing like a ghost and immediately slashed out the Blood Mountain sword in his hand. A shocking violent aura suddenly swept out. It was the peerless sword manual, Xianxia. Temple Master Bai Xing raised his hand and casually slashed out again. Immediately, a small green light swept out. With a clang, Jian Wushuang was directly sent flying. Jian Wushuang was not discouraged. His body swayed, and the Blood Mountain sword in his hand immediately became hazy. It was the first move of the peerless sword manual, Star Dream. Buzz! The sword light passed through Temple Master Bai Xing's divine body, but it did not touch the real body. It's too fast. Jian Wushuang was shocked. He did not see how Temple Master Bai Xing moved, but it was obvious that Temple Master Bai Xing was no longer in the void in front of him. Continue. An indifferent voice came from behind Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang turned his head and looked at Temple Master Bai Xing again, and then, boom! An earth-shaking power swept out. It was the peerless sword manual, the first move of Setting Sun. As soon as the setting sun appeared, a terrifying space-time annihilation power suddenly swept out. Oh, space-time annihilation? Temple Master Bai Xing raised his eyebrows, and his expression finally changed. Then, he counted with his index finger, and the space-time annihilation formed in front of him instantly collapsed. The space-time annihilation had returned to its original calm. Combining sword skill with space-time annihilation, this move is not bad. Temple Master Bai Xing smiled. Since Jian Wushuang had displayed his sword skill, he had already displayed 3 sword skills. Although Xianxia and Star Dream were not bad, they were not worthy of Temple Master Bai Xing's attention. However, the Setting Sun move perfectly combined sword skill with space-time annihilation, which made Temple Master Bai Xing's eyes light up. If you have any other swordsmanship, feel free to use it. Temple Master Bai Xing smiled. Jian Wushuang did not disappoint Temple Master Bai Xing. Soon he used his sword again. Life and Death Moment. 9th Firmament Illusionary Sword Realm. Emperor Blood Kill. 3 sword moves were used one by one. Temple Master Bai Xing did not care about the 2 sword moves, Life and Death Moment and 9th Firmament Illusionary Sword Realm. It was not until Emperor Bloodkill was used that Temple Master Bai Xing showed a strange expression again. Previously, it was a combination of sword technique and space-time annihilation, but this sword technique is actually a perfect combination of space-time suppression. While displaying the sword technique, it also exerted the space-time suppression to the extreme. Haha, what an interesting sword technique. I'm surprised that you can think of this. Temple Master Bai Xing smiled. Obviously, Temple Master Bai Xing was very appreciative of the Emperor's blood kill that Jian Wushuang had created. He was even more impressed with it than he was with the Setting Sun move. Little guy, I saw you fight with the rank 7 true saint from the Purple Cloud Pavilion. Your swordsmanship should be more than this. You should have a more powerful move. Show me that move too. Temple Master Bai Xing's eyes were full of expectation. Jian Wushuang took a deep breath, and his expression became unusually solemn. He stared at Temple Master Bai Xing in front of him, and in the next moment he drew his sword. He slowly raised the sword in his hand. It seemed to be a very simple action, but it instantly stirred up the surrounding space and time, and the surrounding void became completely blood-red. The blood-red sky, the blood-red earth, and even the air were filled with a large amount of blood fog. At this moment, Jian Wushuang was no longer a human cultivator, but an Azura in hell. This was a blood-red Azura. This is the sword. The moment they saw Jian Wushuang raise his sword, Temple Master Bai Xing and Batsong, who were also in the space-time, had their eyes suddenly lit up. They had all seen the scene of Jian Wushuang fighting with Bai Yuan. In that scene, Jian Wushuang had displayed many sword skills, but what really shocked them was the sword that Jian Wushuang had displayed. This sword technique was called Blood Azura. Hua! The sword light slashed out, its power shocking the world. And at the instant the sword light slashed out, majestic power of space-time suddenly covered the void in front of them. Palace Master Bai Xing was in this void, and the first thing she sensed was the existence of this power of spacetime. As expected, Temple Master Bai Xing smiled and allowed the spacetime power to envelop her, but her figure was not affected at all. When the sword light came down, Temple Master Bai Xing only raised her hand, and the sword light stopped 1 meter in front of her. "That's enough," Temple Master Bai Xing said. Jian Wushuang immediately withdrew his sword and retreated to the side. Heavenly Sword Marquis. Temple Master Bai Xing looked at Jian Wushuang again, but his expression had become very serious. "What's the name of the sword skill you just displayed? And did you really create this sword skill?" "I named this sword skill Blood Azura. Of course, I created it myself." Jian Wushuang's expression was strange. He could see that his Blood Azura sword skill had shocked both Temple Master Bai Xing and Batsong. "Your sword technique is very powerful," Temple Master Bai Xing said. "If I'm not mistaken, you've perfectly combined your swordsmanship with the heaven-designated skill, the first move of the space-time divine skill, right?" "Yes." Jian Wushuang nodded. "How did you do it?" Temple Master Bai Xing asked. "How?" Jian Wushuang was stunned. He answered subconsciously, "I just wanted to incorporate the heaven-designated skill into my swordsmanship. I tried to do it, and I did it." What Jian Wushuang said was the truth. In the Peerless Sword Manual, except for the 2 moves of Xianxia and Star Dream, he created the other 5 sword moves in the Bodhi world in the mystic realm of the North Blood realm. The Bodhi world was obtained by the North Blood realm in the universe battlefield, and it contained a great opportunity. He stayed in the Bodhi world for a full 100 years, observing a large number of exquisite swordsmanship and continuously comprehending it. Only then did he create these 5 sword moves. As for the Blood Azura move, he did have the idea of incorporating a heaven-designated skill into his own swordsmanship. Then he tried again. During the process of trying, he continued to study it and succeeded. There was no other reason or a special factor. Hearing Jian Wushuang's words, Temple Master Bai Xing and Batsong looked at each other with strange expressions. Temple Master Bai Xing, "Lord Batsong, what's going on? From the looks of you two, it seems that the sword skill I created is very unusual." Jian Wushuang asked. "Nonsense, of course it's unusual," Batsong said directly. "Boy, I'm afraid you don't know that the space-time divine skill is the most powerful divine skill that Temple Master created personally. Since Temple Master created it, most of the cultivators in our temporal temple have had a hard time comprehending it. It's impossible to combine this divine skill with other secret skills, or incorporate it into their own attack moves. Since the creation of the temporal temple, countless experts and talented people have been born in the temporal temple. However, none of them have been able to integrate the time-space divine skill into their own offensive skills. Never. No. Even Lord Temple Master himself, although he is the creator of the time-space divine skill, I have never heard Lord Temple Master say that he can integrate the time-space divine skill into his own offensive skills. In other words, you are the first one in our temporal temple to integrate the time-space divine skill into his own skills. Do you think what you have created is powerful? Heavenly Sword Marquis, do you know why Batsong came to pick you up personally? Temple Master Bai Xing looked at Jian Wushuang. It was because we saw you fight with the rank 7 true saint of the Purple Cloud Pavilion. During that fight, we saw that your sword had merged with the space-time divine skill, so we were alarmed. We even reported it to the Temple Master, who personally ordered Batsong to pick you up. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang was stunned. He did not expect that the sword skill he created would be so amazing. Although he was proud when he created Blood Azura, he did not expect that his move would make the 2 experts, Temple Master Bai Xing and Batsong, so moved. Even Temporal Temple Master's original body was alarmed and ordered Batsong to come and pick him up. Boy, you're really amazing. You're the first one to incorporate the space-time divine skill into your swordsmanship. Batsong smiled. Jian Wushuang was flattered. Well, it's been verified. Your talent in space-time is indeed beyond ordinary people. Now follow me, Temple Master Bai Xing said. Jian Wushuang immediately followed Temple Master Bai Xing to the void ahead. Under the guidance of Temple Master Bai Xing, it did not take long for Jian Wushuang to arrive at a towering temple. The temple was not big, but it was extremely majestic. In the center of the temple, there were neatly arranged divine tablets. Each of these divine tablets was lifelike and contained boundless vitality. At a glance, there were more than 1,000 divine tablets. What are these? Jian Wushuang looked at the divine tablets in front of him in confusion. These are the divine tablets of the cultivators under the command of the temporal temple. Every expert under the command of the temporal temple will leave a divine tablet here, and this divine tablet will contain a trace of his life aura. With this trace of life aura, the temporal temple will be able to sense his condition and his location, making it easier for us to rescue him in time. Take an ordinary principles master under my temporal temple as an example. If this principles master is in danger while adventuring outside, he can ask for help from my temporal temple. My temporal temple can rush to his location in the shortest time according to the life aura he left on the divine throne. In addition, if a cultivator under my temporal temple accidentally dies while adventuring outside, his divine throne here will be directly destroyed. We can also know that he is dead, Temple Master Bai Xing said. Is that so? Jian Wushuang understood, but suddenly, his expression changed. Temple Master Bai Xing, if you said that every expert under the command of the Spacetime Temple would leave a divine seat here, then why are there so few divine seats here? There are only over 1,000 divine seats. Could it be? Jian Wushuang thought of a possibility, and his expression immediately became strange. Temple Master Bai Xing smiled and said, "You guessed it right. There are only about 1,000 experts in the temporal temple who are still alive. Their divine seats are all here." In the divine beginning realm, the temporal temple, one of the 3 freedom alliances, only has more than 1,000 experts under its command? How is this possible? Jian Wushuang's face was full of disbelief. Not to mention a behemoth like the temporal temple, even the ordinary sects in the divine beginning realm had countless disciples and experts as long as they were slightly stronger and had some foundation. Some large sects or forces had hundreds of thousands of cultivators under their command or even millions of them. For example, the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance had an unknown number of core experts and disciples, and if the outer experts were included, there were countless of them. It was the same for many sects, but the temporal temple, which was worthy of the name of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, only had more than 1,000 cultivators under its command? That was too few. The number of cultivators in the temporal temple is indeed not many. It is far inferior to the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance and the Divine Ancestor Taoist sect. It is even inferior to many ordinary forces in the divine beginning world. However, the strength of a force is not determined by the number of cultivators in the period, Temple Master Bai Xing said with a smile. It is true that there are only more than 1,000 cultivators in the temporal temple, but these cultivators are all very powerful. Ordinary people are not qualified to enter the temporal temple. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. Obviously, the temporal temple paid attention to the quality of the cultivators. Temple Master Bai Xing raised his hands slightly, and a brand new divine throne immediately floated out. Little guy, transfer a trace of your life aura into this divine throne, Temple Master Bai Xing said. Jian Wushuang did not hesitate and immediately transferred a trace of his life aura into the divine throne. After the blood aura entered the divine throne, Jian Wushuang immediately had a special connection with the divine throne. Now that you have your own divine seat, from today onwards, you will officially join the temporal temple. This divine seat represents you and will be placed here in the future. Because of this divine seat, you will also have a certain connection with the experts of our temporal temple. Temple Master Bai Xing looked over. Jian Wushuang had already discovered it. After his divine throne was formed, he had a special connection with Temple Master Bai Xing and Batsong. This connection could only be found among cultivators who belonged to the temporal temple. Little guy, you have to remember that although the number of cultivators in our temporal temple is very small, our temporal temple is still able to become one of the 3 freedom alliances in the divine beginning world. Moreover, we are feared by all the sects and powers. This is not only because we have many top experts and special means, but most importantly, the cultivators in our temporal temple are very united. Kill, Palace Master Bai Xing said. The cultivators of the temporal temple never kill each other. Anyone who kills each other will be executed. If they meet each other while they are traveling, they will help each other. If anyone is in danger while they are traveling, countless cultivators of the temporal temple will try their best to find a camp. At the same time, if anyone dares to kill the cultivators of our temporal temple, all the top experts of our temporal temple will rush forward. Because of this, no one in the divine beginning realm dares to mess with our temporal temple. Even a weaker true saint under our temporal temple can do whatever he wants when he's out there. Many years ago, when the temple master created the temporal temple, he told us that if any cultivators from the temporal temple were to clash with experts from other forces while they were traveling outside, we should win first. We don't need to care about the consequences. We have the support of the entire temporal temple. Jian Wushuang's blood boiled when he heard Temple Master Bai Xing's words. If they were to clash with experts from other forces, should they not win first? Should the temporal temple bear all the consequences? How domineering was this? This was the confidence that a superforce should have. You must remember what I said. If you go out in the future, don't embarrass the temporal temple. Temple Master Bai Xing said with a smile. All right, let's go out. Temple Master Bai Xing immediately led Jian Wushuang out of the palace. After they walked out of the palace, Ba Cong spoke directly. Temple Master Bai Xing, this little guy is now a member of my temporal temple. My task has been completed, so I'll take my leave. As for the rest of the matter, I'll leave it to you to tell this little guy. Okay. Temple Master Bai Xing nodded slightly. Kid, cultivate well. I'm looking forward to your growth in the future. Ba Cong grinned at Jian Wushuang and left in a flash. Heavenly Sword Marquis, I'll take you to the space-time island. There are a lot of opportunities on the island, and I'll introduce them to you one by one. Temple Master Bai Xing said. Opportunities. Jian Wushuang was full of expectation. Under the personal guidance of Temple Master Bai Xing, Jian Wushuang soon arrived at the center of the island. When he arrived, he saw a huge open space. On the open space was the time-space beast god, which was so huge that even Jian Wushuang was shocked. Even though this time beast god was crawling, its huge size still occupied 1/10 of the entire island. Previously, Jian Wushuang had only looked at this space-time beast god from afar and was not that shocked. But now, Temple Master Bai Xing brought him to the front of the space-time beast god and looked at it. Jian Wushuang could not help feeling numb. Little guy, the space-time beast god in front of you is one of the many opportunities on the time-space island. Temple Master Bai Xing said. This time-space beast god is an opportunity? Jian Wushuang was surprised. Of course, it's an opportunity. Look carefully at the scales on the time-space beast god. Temple Master Bai Xing said with a smile. Jian Wushuang immediately looked over. The enormous space-time beast god had more than 10,000 scales, and each scale was not small. Jian Wushuang focused his attention on one of the scales. In just a moment, he felt a strong power of space-time principles from the scale. Space-time principles, it's really space-time principles. There are a lot of space-time principles in this scale, and these principles are very unique. Jian Wushuang frowned. He could feel that the power of the space-time principles in the scale was arranged in a very special pattern. The arrangement was from shallow to deep, and it was completely step-by-step for people to comprehend. This feeling doesn't feel like dissection, but more like dividing the space-time principles step by step. Jian Wushuang was shocked. Dividing and dissection were very similar. They both made the originally complex and difficult rules of heaven and earth easier to comprehend. For example, the gold-cracking secret manual that Jian Wushuang had exchanged for in the treasure pavilion, the gold-cracking master, dissected the space-time principles step by step, making it easier for Jian Wushuang to comprehend the space-time principles. But this time-space beast god divided the space-time principles into 2 parts, 4 parts, 8 parts, and even 16 parts. It continued to divide. As it continued to divide, although the space-time principles had increased in number, it had become very simple. It was very easy to comprehend. You can see it now, right? Palace Master Bai Xing looked over. The space-time beast god was born with complete control over the space-time law, and the complete space-time principles has fused into the many scales on its body. The time-space beast god has a total of 13,300 scales, and each scale contains certain space-time principles. As long as someone can fully understand the space-time principles of the 13,300 scales, he will naturally have complete control over the space-time principles. Is that so? Jian Wushuang understood, but at the same time he was ecstatic. 13,300 scales, which is equivalent to dividing the space-time principles into 13,300 parts, and each part is subtly divided so that people can easily comprehend it. Jian Wushuang's eyes were slightly red. This space-time beast god was the dream of countless cultivators who comprehended the space-time principles. It's much easier for me to comprehend the space-time principles when I divide them. It's easier than dissecting the space-time principles in the Golden Crack Secret Manual. Besides, I've only got 2 volumes of the Golden Crack Secret Manual, so I can't dissect the space-time principles completely. However, this time-space beast god can dissect the space-time principles in the most subtle way. Haha! If I could comprehend it in front of the time-space beast god, why would I need the gold-splitting secret manual? Jian Wushuang growled in his heart. The gold-splitting secret manual had been of great help to him over the years. The reason why his comprehension of the space-time principles had improved so quickly was largely due to the gold-splitting secret manual. However, after seeing the time-space beast god in front of him, Jian Wushuang knew that the gold-splitting secret manual was far inferior to the time-space beast god in front of him. The time-space beast god was more helpful to him, allowing him to comprehend the space-time principles more quickly. Most importantly, the time-space beast god was complete, and the dissection of the space-time principles in the gold-splitting secret book was only a part of it. The magic of this time-space beast god is not as simple as what you see now. It's just that the time-space beast god contains some special abilities. You're not qualified to observe it yet. At the very least, you have to fully grasp the space-time principles and become a principles master to be qualified. However, for you now, it's already very good enough to comprehend the space-time principles with the help of the 13,300 scales of the time-space beast god. Temple Master Bai Xing said, "Time-space beast god, do you have any other secrets?" Jian Wushuang looked at the time-space beast god in front of him, but his heart was burning with passion. You can meditate on the time-space beast god later. Now, I'll take you to the other fortuitous places. Temple Master Bai Xing led the way again. Under the guidance of Temple Master Bai Xing, Jian Wushuang soon came to the edge of a cliff. There was a black stone bridge floating in front of the cliff. It was unknown what material the black stone bridge was made of, but the aura it emitted was very unique. "This is the Heavenly Bridge," Temple Master Bai Xing introduced. The Heavenly Bridge is used by the cultivators of the Temporal Temple to test and test. There are 32 levels of the Heavenly Bridge, and each level is more difficult than the last. If someone can pass all 32 levels, it means that he has completely mastered the principles of spacetime. Heavenly Sword Marquis, you are very talented in spacetime principles. Since you just came to the Temporal Temple, with the help of the cultivation resources of the Temporal Temple, you will have a rapid breakthrough in your strength. If you can't judge the progress in the spacetime principles, you can try the Heavenly Bridge. Okay. Jian Wushuang nodded. Then, Temple Master Bai Xing led Jian Wushuang to a thatched cottage in the center of the spacetime island. Strangely enough, there were a lot of buildings in the center of the spacetime island. These buildings were extremely tall, lofty, or exquisite. Only here was a simple thatched cottage, which looked very different from the others. This thatched cottage is where the true martial mystic realm is located, Temple Master Bai Xing said. The true martial mystic realm? Jian Wushuang was stunned. Is there a mystic realm inside this cottage? Yes. Temple Master Bai Xing nodded. Follow me. Temple Master Bai Xing led Jian Wushuang into the cottage. As soon as he stepped into the cottage, Jian Wushuang immediately found that the scene in front of him had changed. Jian Wushuang had arrived at a huge ice field. This ice field should be located in the center of the sea. The entire ice field was so huge that one could not see the end of it with the naked eye. Above the ice field, there were also icebergs standing tall. These icebergs were all different in size, but they were densely packed and very numerous. As soon as Jian Wushuang arrived at the ice field, he immediately looked around, but he did not find anything different about this secret realm. Heavenly Sword Marquis, come down with me. Temple Master Bai Xing floated toward the ice field, and Jian Wushuang followed him. They landed on the ice field, and there was an ice mountain in front of them. Look! Temple Master Bai Xing raised his hand and pointed at the ice mountain in front of him. Jian Wushuang looked at it and his pupils immediately shrank. He had noticed that there were 3 words written on the ice mountain in front of him with a sharp weapon. Illusory Spear King. The 3 words were obviously a name. The moment Jian Wushuang saw the name, an ancient image immediately appeared in front of him. The image happened in the ice field of the true martial mystic realm. A 2-meter-tall middle-aged man with a shaggy beard was holding a long spear in one hand. In the silence of the world, the middle-aged man moved his wrist, and a unique artistic conception rose up. The long spear in his hand immediately whistled out. Buzz, buzz, buzz. It was just a long spear, but in Jian Wushuang's eyes, dozens of long spears appeared at the same time. They all stabbed out in the same way like strange phantoms. Time and space condensed into a line. What a terrifying spear attack! It's too fast and too strange. It was only a spear attack, but it felt as if dozens of spears were attacking at the same time. Even I couldn't tell whether the spear shadows were real or illusory. Furthermore, the strangling power contained within the spear technique was even more terrifying. I've already grasped the strangling power of spacetime, but I wasn't able to unleash such power. This spear is too powerful. If it's aimed at me, I won't be able to withstand it. Jian Wushuang exclaimed. Temple Master Bai Xing, this Phantom Spear King should be a principal's master, right? Jian Wushuang asked. In his opinion, someone who could perform such a terrifying spear move must be an expert above the principal's master level. You're right. Temple Master Bai Xing nodded. Phantom Spear King was a principal's master of our temporal temple 30 million years ago. He used Phantom Spear as his name, and the most important part of his spear technique was the word phantom, which was mysterious and unpredictable. At that time, Phantom Spear King was also famous among principal's masters. Unfortunately, he went to the universe battlefield and never came back. Did he die? Jian Wushuang felt it was a pity. Phantom Spear King was definitely a powerful principal's master, but the universe battlefield was dangerous and unpredictable. Principal's masters also had a high chance of dying. Look at the iceberg next to you, Temple Master Bai Xing said. Jian Wushuang immediately looked at the iceberg next to him. On the iceberg, he saw another name. This name was the Master of Gold Emperor. When he saw the name Master of Gold Emperor, the same scene immediately appeared in Jian Wushuang's sight. Different from the spear technique of Phantom Spear King, the name Master of Gold Emperor contained a secret skill. It was an extremely unique secret skill in spacetime. This secret skill is so strange. Has it reached an extreme in the application of the rules of spacetime? Jian Wushuang frowned. The secret skill was strange, but it was undeniable that it was also very impressive. The name Master of Gold Emperor was obviously aimed at the principal's master. Look at the other icebergs, Temple Master Bai Xing said. Jian Wushuang looked around and indeed, he could see one name after another on the icebergs on the ice field. Temple Master Bai Xing, what's this? Jian Wushuang was surprised. Temple Master Bai Xing smiled faintly. The true martial mystic realm is specially prepared by the temporal temple for the experts under our command. In the future, all the cultivators who have reached the level of principal's masters will come to the true martial mystic realm and leave some things here. As for what the principal's masters leave behind, it depends on their preferences. Some will leave behind their own unique skills. Some will leave behind their own secret skills. Some will leave behind their own legacy, and some will leave behind their strongest trump cards. These things are all left on these icebergs. Hearing Temple Master Bai Xing's words, Jian Wushuang's expression immediately changed, and his eyes were filled with fanaticism as he looked around. The ice field was very large. There were many icebergs standing on the ice field. There were at least thousands of icebergs of different sizes. There's a principal's master on every iceberg here? Jian Wushuang was shocked. Yes. Each iceberg corresponds to a rule master, Temple Master Bai Xing said. But isn't this too many? There are thousands of icebergs here. Could it be left behind by thousands of principals masters? Jian Wushuang widened his eyes. Thousands of principals masters? It must be noted that there were only more than 1,000 cultivators in the temporal temple. The proportion of principals masters was probably not too much, and the number of immortal saints must be much higher. In the divine beginning realm, principals masters had always been a superior existence. To any force, principals masters were an extremely important battle force. For example, in the first heaven, a principals master could create a powerful sect. For example, the 3 pavilions in the first heaven were so powerful because they had a principals master. Even a principals master was like this. Several thousand? This number was too terrifying. Several thousand principals masters, is that a lot? Palace Master Bai Xing smiled indifferently. Little guy, you should know that the temporal temple is the oldest force in the divine beginning realm. It has been hundreds of millions of years since Temple Master was founded. Billions of years? Even I don't know how long the temporal temple has existed. In such a long time, experts have been born in the temporal temple. Now, thousands of principals masters have been born. What's the big deal? Jian Wushuang was stunned. But then he nodded. Indeed, the temporal temple was too old. In the long river of time, new experts were born and old experts died. It was normal for there to be thousands of principals masters. It's a pity that 99% of the principals masters who left things in the true martial mystic realm have died. Not many are still alive, Temple Master Bai Xing said. Jian Wushuang could not help but sigh. Principals masters were indeed a superior existence in the divine beginning world. Under normal circumstances, it was very difficult for them to die. However, the real experts would never stop because they had reached the principals master level. They would still take risks and go adventuring. For example, they would go to the universe battlefield and many dangerous places in the divine beginning world. Some would even fight with others. Of course, some would die while adventuring or fighting. After such a long period of time, only a few people who stood at the peak of the principals master, or supreme existences like the temporal temple master, the heaven-cleaving alliance master, and the founder of the heavenly ancestor Taoist sect could survive. Most of the others would die during this process. Only a few people could reach the peak of the path of the experts, and there were corpses everywhere below them. The fallen principals masters of the temporal temple had obviously become such corpses. This true martial mystic realm was left behind by thousands of principals masters. What they left behind is useful even for principals masters of the same level. You're only a true saint now, so this place should be very useful to you, Temple Master Bai Xing said. Jian Wushuang was already excited. Useful? More than useful. It was left behind by thousands of principals masters, and most of the things left behind by them were not hidden. Jian Wushuang could study the spear techniques of Illusionary Spear King and the secret skill of Emperor Jin carefully. What they left behind could only be considered ordinary in the true martial mystic realm. There are so many principles left behind by the principles master. This is a great help to me in the rules of space-time. It's definitely more helpful to me than the time-space beast god. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands, his heart full of surprise. You can come here to cultivate in the true martial mystic realm later. I'll take you to the next place first. After saying that, Temple Master Bai Xing led Jian Wushuang to the mystic realm. After leaving the mystic realm, Temple Master Bai Xing led Jian Wushuang to an exquisite black tower. The tower was not very tall. It was pitch black and exuded an extremely ancient aura. The entire tower had 3 floors, and each floor was about the same size. This is the Tower of Time and Space. It's a special treasure refined by Temple Master Bai Xing. Temple Master Bai Xing said. What's so special about this tower? Jian Wushuang asked. You'll know once you enter. Temple Master Bai Xing led Jian Wushuang to the first floor of the Tower of Time and Space. After entering the tower, Jian Wushuang saw nothing but a pitch-black void. There was nothing in front of him. However, walking in the pitch-black void, Jian Wushuang slowly frowned. The space-time here seems to be a little different, Jian Wushuang muttered. He carefully sensed the power of the space-time around him, and his frown deepened. He did sense that there was a difference between the space-time around him and the outside world, but he was not sure what the difference was. You only know that the space-time is different, but you don't know what the difference is? Temple Master Bai Xing glanced at Jian Wushuang, then smiled and said, "Let me remind you the flow of time." The flow of time? Jian Wushuang was stunned at first, but then he was shocked. The flow of time? The flow of time in this void is different from the outside world. Jian Wushuang immediately realized this. He also sensed that the flow of time in this void seemed to be much slower than that in the outside world. How is this possible? Jian Wushuang was shocked. Nothing is impossible, Temple Master Bai Xing said indifferently. The space-time principles is the combination of time and space. Your comprehension of the space-time principles is still too low, and you have just started to touch the flow of time. Of course, you will find it incredible. But in fact, when a person's strength has reached a certain level or his comprehension of the space-time principles has reached a certain level, his control of the power of time and space is no longer limited to what you know. For example, many people who have reached an extremely high level in the application of the rules of time and space can change the flow of time. For example, I can do it. However, even if I try my best, I can only slow down the flow of time in a small void by 3 times. This is my limit. But this tower of time and space was personally refined by the Temple Master. What is the flow of time here? Jian Wushuang could not help asking. There are 3 levels in the time tower. You are now on the first level. The flow of time here is 10 times slower than in the outside world. In other words, you have been cultivating here for 10 years, but only 1 year has passed in the outside world. Temple Master Bai Xing said. 10 times. Jian Wushuang's eyes widened. Then he immediately asked, the flow of time on the first level is 10 times slower. What about the second level and the third level? On the second level, the flow of time is 100 times slower. The most powerful one is the third level. The flow of time is 1,000 times slower. Temple Master Bai Xing's voice was solemn. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang was a little confused. It was one thing for the flow of time to be 10 times slower, but it could actually be 100 times slower? 1,000 times slower? What an earth-shaking method was this? Had the Time Temple Master, who had refined the space-time tower, reached such an incredible level in his comprehension and application of the power of time and space? Actually, it's not too difficult for some rule masters who have comprehended the rules of time and space and are powerful machine guns to master the flow of time. What's really difficult is time reversal, Temple Master Bai Xing said. Time reversal? Jian Wushuang was stunned again. Yes, if you can master time reversal, you can reverse time and space and change things that have happened in the past. For example, some dead people can be resurrected by reversing time and space. Temple Master Bai Xing said, reverse time and space and resurrect. Jian Wushuang was shocked. He was no stranger to reversing time and space. In his previous life, his master Xianxia reversed time and space and resurrected his soul. Then, he sent his soul into the Reincarnation passage and sent it to the divine beginning realm. Since his master could do this, his strength was naturally earth-shaking. Temple Master, you can also reverse time and space? Jian Wushuang asked. Of course, but although you have this ability, you rarely use it. For example, since the beginning of the divine beginning world, the temporal temple has produced many talented experts and lost many of them. However, over the years, Temple Master has only used reverse time and space once and resurrected one person. That person was a personal disciple of Temple Master a long time ago. He was also his favorite disciple. Unfortunately, the disciple of the Temple Master was very talented, but he was unlucky. After he was resurrected by the Temple Master, he went to the universe battlefield and died again. After his second death, the Temple Master did not resurrect him. Temple Master Bai Xing said. Jian Wushuang was secretly amazed. Reverse time and space was an incredible method. However, it seemed that it was not easy to use this method, or there were some restrictions, so Temple Master Bai Xing did not dare to use it recklessly. Heavenly Sword Marquis, the Space-Time Tower is not very helpful for you to comprehend the space-time principles. However, if you need a lot of time to cultivate or to study secret skills in the future, you can consider coming to the Space-Time Tower. If you want to cultivate in the Space-Time Tower except for the time flow, everything else is the same. This will save you a lot of time. Of course, if your comprehension of the space-time rules reaches an extremely high level in the future, you can also come to the Space-Time Tower to control the flow of time, Temple Master Bai Xing said. Understood. Jian Wushuang nodded and then asked, Temple Master Bai Xing, can I enter all 3 levels of the Space-Time Tower? No, Temple Master Bai Xing shook his head. You can enter and leave the first level of the Space-Time Tower at will, but you need some conditions to enter the 2nd or 3rd level. What conditions? Jian Wushuang asked. Divine power, Temple Master Bai Xing said. What's that? Jian Wushuang asked, puzzled. Divine power is a very special divine power. You're only at the true saint realm, so you're not qualified to touch it. However, to most principles masters in the divine beginning realm, divine power is like a holy elixir, used to trade with each other, Temple Master Bai Xing explained. Only principles masters have the right to brew divine power. Little guy, you should know that after principles masters master a complete set of rules, they will have a special power of will. Because of this power of will, principles masters are much stronger than the immortal saints. For example, many immortal saints in the divine beginning realm are so powerful that they are already invincible. Although they are invincible among the immortal saints, they are still far inferior to principles masters. The reason is because of the existence of that will. Under normal circumstances, if a principles master comprehended 2 principles at the same time, he would be able to obtain 2 parts of the will, and his strength would naturally be stronger. And the divine power is the special divine power that these principles masters, who have grasped the will power, condensed by relying on their own will power. This kind of divine power is nothing to many masters of laws, but to the immortal saints, it is extremely powerful. In the divine beginning realm, the principles gate treats the divine power as an ordinary currency, but the immortal saints treat it as a treasure. The immortal saints who are weaker cannot guide the power even if they have the divine power. But for the immortal saints who have reached the peak of invincible strength, they can guide the power of will contained in the divine power to bring their strength to a higher level. Divine power is so useful? Jian Wushuang was shocked. He did not expect that principles masters could use their will power to condense this special divine power. And the divine power could help the immortal saints, who had reached the peak, increase their strength in a short period of time. Jian Wushuang immediately understood how important the divine power was to the peak-level immortal saints. Of course, the divine power is important to the peak-level immortal saints, but experts from various forces in the divine beginning realm have long reached a consensus that they would not freely give their condensed divine power to their experts or disciples. Temple Master Bai Xing said. Why? Jian Wushuang asked, puzzled. Firstly, they don't want their subordinates or disciples to rely too much on the power of divine power, and secondly, there is a great risk in guiding the will power of divine power. Temple Master Bai Xing said seriously. The immortal saint is not a principles master after all, so he can freely control the will power. Although a drop of divine power contains very little will power, even an invincible immortal saint will suffer the backlash of the will power if he tries to guide it by force. He might die first, not to mention increasing his strength to kill the enemy. Because of these 2 reasons, there are very few top-notch immortal saints in the divine beginning realm who possess divine power. Even if they do, they only have 1 or 2 drops at most. It's impossible for them to have too much. Is that so? Jian Wushuang understood. Divine power was a double-edged sword. Could increase one's strength at a critical moment, but it could also cause a backlash. Therefore, this kind of power was not very common in the divine beginning realm. This divine power is very rare for the immortal saint, but it's only a common thing for us principles masters. That's why we use it as currency, Temple Master Bai Xing said. Use divine power as currency? Jian Wushuang frowned. Temple Master Bai Xing, if you say that every rule master in the absolute beginning divine realm can condense divine power through the power of their own will, doesn't that mean that divine power is endless? Endless? How can it be so exaggerated? Palace Master Bai Xing smiled. Little guy, you have to understand first. Although Principles Masters can condense divine power, the process isn't easy. Under normal circumstances, a Principles Master can only condense a drop of divine power after dozens or even hundreds of years. Moreover, the process of condensing divine power will affect the willpower they control. That's why few Principles Masters dare to use that willpower to condense divine power. Under normal circumstances, if a Principles Master wants to condense divine power, after concentrating on condensing a few drops of divine power, he would need to spend hundreds or even thousands of years to fully recover the power of the will before he can continue to condense the next batch. In this way, even if a Principles Master tries his best, he can at most condense 20 to 30 drops of divine power in 10,000 years. I see. Jian Wushuang suddenly understood. He had thought that it was easy for Principles Masters to condense divine power, but now it seemed that it was not so. Naturally, the divine power would not be too overflowed. Temple Master Bai Xing, in the divine beginning realm, how many holy elixirs does a drop of divine power cost in exchange for holy elixirs? Jian Wushuang asked curiously. Exchange? No way. Temple Master Bai Xing shook his head. In the divine beginning realm, the superior Principles Masters use divine power to trade with each other, so they don't use holy elixirs at all. Holy elixirs are useless to Principles Masters. Therefore, no matter how many holy elixirs they give, they can't exchange for a drop of divine power from a Principles Master. Of course, some sects have a way to exchange for divine power in order to provide convenience for their experts. In my temporal temple, if you want to exchange for divine power, you can exchange 10 billion holy elixirs for one drop. 10 billion. Jian Wushuang's eyes widened. Why is it so expensive? Expensive, indeed expensive. After all, even if he exchanged the universe crystals from Shuebei for holy elixirs, they were only worth 7.5 billion holy elixirs. Shuebei was also a Principles Master, and he was very powerful. He even went to the universe battlefield. However, Shuebei obviously valued the universe crystals more than divine power. It shouldn't be. If the value of the universe crystal is less than a drop of divine power, Elder Shuebei would never take the universe crystal so seriously. Jian Wushuang frowned and thought to himself. Temple Master Bai Xing continued, the first floor of the temporal tower of the space-time temple is open to all the cultivators under our command, but the second floor requires divine power. A drop of divine power can allow you to stay on the second floor for a year. Of course, the year mentioned here is a year in the outside world, but in the second floor of the temporal tower it's 100 years. As for the third floor, it's even more ridiculous. Only 10 drops of divine power can stay on the second floor for a year. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang secretly clicked his tongue. Only 1 drop of divine power could stay on the second floor for a year. As for the third floor, it required 10 drops of divine power to stay on the third floor for a year. After all, 1 drop of divine power required 10 billion holy elixirs to exchange. 10 drops. That was 100 billion holy elixirs. I can't enter the second and third floors of the temporal tower, Jian Wushuang said on the spot. Haha, you're right. For a true saint like you, the first floor is enough. There's no need to go to the second and third floors. Those 2 floors are for Principles Masters. Temple Master Bai Xing smiled. These Principles Masters are powerful, and they study secret skills or absolute arts of a high level. Naturally, they need to spend more time. Sometimes, it takes tens of thousands of years or hundreds of thousands of years to study a secret skill absolute art. Such a long time is not too short even for Principles Masters. Therefore, many people are willing to spend some divine power in this temporal tower. Jian Wushuang nodded secretly. Tens of thousands of years, hundreds of thousands of years. Some Principles Masters who were very old would not think much of it, but for some younger Principles Masters it was a long time. In the outside world, such a long time could do a lot of things. Let's go. I'll take you to a place in my temporal temple. Temple Master Bai Xing brought Jian Wushuang away from the temporal tower. Soon, they came to a purple pavilion. This is the secret technique pavilion of my temporal temple, which contains the secret techniques created by many experts of my temporal temple, and most of these secret techniques are targeted at the aspect of space and time. As he spoke to Jian Wushuang kept looking around. There were many special tokens floating around him. These tokens contained secret skills. There were probably thousands of them. So many secret skills are related to space-time? Jian Wushuang could not help asking. Of course, not only that. These secret skills were created by the principal's master and are very powerful. However, the secret skills here are not complete. They are just beginner-level secret skills. Temple Master Bai Xing said. According to the rules of our temporal temple, the secret skills in the secret pavilion are open to all the cultivators under your command. However, after you choose a secret skill, you can only get the beginner-level secret skill in the beginning. After you get the beginner-level secret skill, you will have a time limit. Only when you reach the beginner level of the secret skill within this time limit can you prove that you have the ability and qualification to cultivate this secret skill. Then, you can get the complete secret skill. Is that so? Jian Wushuang understood. Although the secret skills of the secret pavilion were open to all the cultivators in the temporal temple, there was a certain level of authority, which could prevent many people from blindly pursuing and cultivating more secret skills. One could not bite off more than one could chew. Secret skills were only useful if they were truly suitable for oneself. Moreover, one did not need to master too many secret skills, so there was no need to spend too much energy on them. Let's go to the third floor, Temple Master Bai Xing said. There were 3 floors in the secret skill pavilion. The first floor had the most secret skills, while the second floor had fewer secret skills. There were less than 100 secret skills, but they were obviously more powerful. And on the third floor, Jian Wushuang frowned. When he reached the third floor of the secret skill pavilion, he saw 7 black stone tablets instead of a floating special token. Each of the 7 stone tablets was extremely tall, and the word space-time was carved in the center of each stone tablet. Temple Master Bai Xing, what are these 7 stone tablets? Jian Wushuang asked in puzzlement. This is the secret skill pavilion. The third floor is the record of the most powerful secret skill of our temporal temple. Don't you know what the most powerful secret skill is? Temple Master Bai Xing looked at Jian Wushuang with interest. Is it the space-time divine skill? Jian Wushuang's expression changed. Yes. Temple Master Bai Xing nodded. But why are there 7 stone tablets here? Jian Wushuang asked again. It's very simple. There are 7 moves of the space-time divine skill. Temple Master Bai Xing said with a smile. Jian Wushuang suddenly understood. Each of these 7 stone tablets contains a move of the space-time divine skill. They have been standing here for a long time. However, very few people have been able to comprehend the space-time divine skill from these 7 stone tablets. Temple Master Bai Xing said. Jian Wushuang was not surprised. After all, it was the most powerful divine skill created by the great Temple Master of Spacetime. How could anyone casually comprehend it? Little guy, you comprehended the spacetime divine skill through the spacetime stone, but as far as I know, the spacetime divine skill contained in the spacetime stone is not complete, right? Temple Master Bai Xing asked. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded. There are 2 divine skills contained in the spacetime gold stone. The first one is the heaven-designated skill, and the second one is the void annihilation skill. As for the next 3 to 7 moves, there are none. Now you can directly comprehend the third move from the third stone tablet, Temple Master Bai Xing said. Jian Wushuang immediately walked forward. He walked to the third stone tablet and sat down with his legs crossed. His consciousness was completely immersed in the stone tablet. To be exact, it was the word spacetime in the center of the stone tablet. After a short while, the screen turned, and Jian Wushuang suddenly came to a vast dark void. In the dark void, the hazy figure was still standing there. The world was originally calm. Suddenly, the hazy figure took a step forward. It was a simple step, but it instantly crossed space-time and appeared in the void hundreds of millions of miles away. The scene quickly disappeared. Under the stone tablet, Jian Wushuang's expression was extremely shocked. This is the third move of the space-time divine skill, teleportation? No, it's space-time teleportation. But why does it feel exactly the same as teleportation? Jian Wushuang frowned. In the picture, the shadowy figure's method indeed looked exactly the same as teleportation. But teleportation, as long as one's comprehension of the space-time principles reached the fourth stage, he could master it? Does it feel strange? Temple Master Bai Xing looked at Jian Wushuang. Yes, it does. Jian Wushuang nodded. The third move of the space-time divine skill gives me the same feeling as teleportation. The same? That's not true. Temple Master Bai Xing smiled mysteriously. Little guy, if you simply look at it and observe it, space-time teleportation and teleportation are exactly the same, but the gap between them is huge. A big gap? Why? Jian Wushuang asked with puzzlement. First of all, you should know that cultivators who have comprehended the space-time principles can master teleportation after reaching the fourth stage of the comprehension of the space-time principles. Teleportation is a special method used for escaping and traveling, but there are many limitations to this method. For example, space-time blockade. Temple Master Bai Xing explained. In the divine beginning realm, any cultivator who has some attainments in space-time can use space-time seal. Those who have not comprehended the rules of space-time, even if they can't seal space-time by themselves, there are many treasures or magic arrays in the divine beginning realm that can seal space-time in the shortest time. Jian Wushuang could understand this point. Space-time seal was not a very powerful technique. With his current comprehension of space-time principles, he could also seal space-time. In addition, he had the ruler seal which could seal a huge space-time. Once space-time is completely sealed, you can't teleport in this sealed space-time, Temple Master Bai Xing said with a smile. Therefore, in the divine beginning world, if you want to kill experts who have a high understanding of space-time principles and know how to teleport, you must first seal the space-time where they are before they have time to react so that they can't use their teleportation skills, and then kill them. Jian Wushuang understood. He also knew that a cultivator who could teleport had mastered a lot of life-saving skills, but it was not invincible. Otherwise, in the history of the Temporal Temple, there had been so many experts in the field of space and time, as well as so many principles masters who had perfectly mastered the principles of space and time. All of them had mastered teleportation techniques, but 99% of them had died. Teleportation can be restricted by the space-time seal, but space-time teleportation is different. Palace Master Bai Xing smiled. Space-time teleportation is a unique move that Temple Master created after studying it for a long time. This unique move is used to protect one's life. At first glance, it does look the same as teleportation, but teleportation cannot break through the space-time seal. However, space-time teleportation can. In other words, as long as I master this move, even if someone blocks space-time in advance, I can escape through space-time teleportation? Jian Wushuang looked at Temple Master Bai Xing. Yes. Temple Master Bai Xing nodded. Jian Wushuang immediately became excited. Teleportation that could ignore the time and space seal. This time and space move was a perfect life-saving method. Heavenly Sword Marquis, don't be too happy. Nothing in this world is absolute. Although the time and space move created by Temple Master can ignore the time and space seal and cannot be restricted by ordinary cultivators and some treasure arrays. This move can also be restricted, Temple Master Bai Xing said. Ha! Jian Wushuang immediately looked up at Temple Master Bai Xing in the divine beginning realm. Some principles masters who have reached the peak of the usage of time and space can use the space-binding skill. Once the space is confined, they can't use space-time teleportation, Temple Master Bai Xing said. Space binding. Jian Wushuang was stunned. That is a special use of the power of space and time. But don't worry too much. Space imprisonment is not a move that can be mastered by just anyone. Even in the vast divine beginning realm, there are only 12 principles masters who know how to use space imprisonment. 8 of them are from the Temporal Temple, Temple Master Bai Xing said with a smile. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang was a little surprised. There were only 12 experts in the divine beginning realm who knew how to use spatial confinement, and the temporal temple had 8 of them. This alone was enough to show the strength of the temporal temple. In other words, if I master the move of space-time teleportation, there will only be 4 people in the entire divine beginning realm who can kill me? Jian Wushuang stared at Temple Master Bai Xing with a strange light in his eyes. Normally speaking, that's true, Temple Master Bai Xing said. Jian Wushuang could not help clenching his hands. Right now, he had been targeted by the will of heaven, the 3 saint realms, and even the sorcerer god sect. Not to mention the will of heaven, the 3 saint realms and the sorcerer god sect were full of experts and principles masters. He did not have the ability to face principles masters head-on. However, if he mastered the move of time-space teleportation, he would not be able to resist principles masters who were extremely strong or even at the top level, let alone ordinary principles masters, but he would not have any problem keeping himself alive. Even if the 3 saint realm masters came personally. Jian Wushuang knew that although the 3 saint realm masters were superior, they were only principles masters. The reason why they were so much stronger than the other principles masters was mainly because of the power of the will of heaven. With the move of time-space teleportation, even the 3 masters of the saint realm would not be able to do anything to him. I must master this move no matter what. Jian Wushuang was full of expectation, but at the same time he also understood. The move of time-space teleportation is used on the basis of teleportation. If I want to master this move, I must first master teleportation. However, I'm still a long way from the 4th stage of the space-time principles. It seems that I have to go through a round of cultivation before I can master this divine skill. Little guy, you can take a look at the secret skill of the secret skill pavilion. If you find something suitable, you can take it and cultivate it. But remember not to cultivate too many secret skills. You can't bite off more than you can chew. You must remember this principle. While exhorting, Temple Master Bai Xing had already left the secret skill pavilion. Temple Master Bai Xing, are all the fortuitous places in the temporal temple already here? Jian Wushuang asked. The temporal beast god, the heavenly bridge, the true martial mystic realm, the temporal temple, and the secret skill pavilion are 5 places you can go for the time being. As for the other fortuitous places, of course there are, Temple Master Bai Xing said. Little guy, look over there. Temple Master Bai Xing pointed in a direction. Jian Wushuang followed the direction and saw a towering mountain. On top of the mountain there were dozens of palaces. There are 16 palaces on the mountain. Each palace contains some special things. Unfortunately, the immortal saint can't touch them. Even ordinary principles masters are not qualified to touch them. Only principles masters who have comprehended 2 principles and obtained 2 wills are qualified to touch them. Temple Master Bai Xing said. There really are more. Jian Wushuang was secretly amazed. He felt that the 5 places Temple Master Bai Xing had taken him to were already very impressive. However, it was clear that the opportunities in the space-time island were not limited to this. He was just not qualified to come into contact with things of a higher level. That is the place where many of the cultivators of the temporal temple live. Those with a magic array barrier outside have an owner. Those without a magic array barrier naturally have no owner. You can find a place without an owner to live in. This is my token. If you encounter any problems in the future, you can send a message to me. Temple Master Bai Xing said as he handed a token to Jian Wushuang. Yes. Jian Wushuang took the token and looked at the buildings in front of him. He nodded slightly. Oh, there's one more thing I want to remind you. You'd better work hard during this period and improve your strength as much as possible. Then you might be able to catch up with the event in 300 years. Temple Master Bai Xing said. The event in 300 years? Jian Wushuang was puzzled. Temple Master Bai Xing did not say much. He waved at Jian Wushuang and left alone. Jian Wushuang shrugged and did not ask any more questions. Temporal Temple. Jian Wushuang looked around at the huge space-time island, but his eyes were shining. After finding his place, Jian Wushuang went to the true martial mystic realm again. Among the 5 places Temple Master Bai Xing had taken him to, the one that shocked him the most was the temporal tower. could change the flow of time, especially on the third floor. It was incredible that it could slow time by 1,000 times. However, the true martial mystic realm was the one that surprised Jian Wushuang the most. The true martial mystic realm was left behind by thousands of principles masters of the temporal temple. Even though these principles masters had left it casually, it was still enough to excite Jian Wushuang. In the true martial mystic realm, icebergs stood on the vast ice field. Jian Wushuang walked alone, step by step, past the icebergs. There were names on the icebergs, among which were the things left behind by the principles masters. Every time Jian Wushuang walked past an iceberg, he would carefully examine the things left behind by the principles master on the icebergs. Some of the principles masters had left behind their own absolute arts. Some had left behind their own secret skills, and some had left behind some special uses of time and space. Jian Wushuang examined them one by one. If he found anything useful that could trigger him, he would stop. In the blink of an eye, he had been in the ice field for 3 days. During these 3 days, he had only seen about 100 icebergs, and he had only seen the things left behind by more than 100 principles masters. At this moment, Jian Wushuang walked to a new iceberg. Master Jian Yuan. Jian Wushuang looked at the name left on the iceberg. Master Jian Yuan calls himself Sword. This Master Jian Yuan should be an expert who specializes in sword principle. Jian Wushuang murmured, and then sank his consciousness into the iceberg. In an instant, a picture appeared in front of him. In the picture, a black-clothed Master Jian Yuan silently floated out with a soft black sword in his hand. The world was still very calm. Master Jian Yuan had completely disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already in the distant void. At the same time, the soft black sword in his hand flew out. This sword move was silent. No sound could be heard as the sword edge swept through the void. There was not even the slightest bit of power being transmitted out. So fast! Jian Wushuang's eyes were wide open. This sword move was too fast. It was much faster than the star dream he had created, or even the moment of life and death. Of course, Master Jian Yuan was a principles master, so it was normal for his sword skill to be faster than Jian Wushuang's. In the scene, after the sword move, Master Jian Yuan immediately performed a second sword move. Silent sword art? Assassin! While Jian Wushuang was carefully observing the scene, he also received the information from the picture. This master of sword origin was actually an assassin when he was alive. His sword art was supreme in speed, eerie, dark, and silent, and fatal in one strike. Just like its name, this silent sword art did not show any power or movement from the beginning to the end. The speed was extremely terrifying. It was indeed an assassination sword art performed by assassins. Although the silent swordsmanship focuses on assassination, it feels very similar to the instant of life and death that I created, Jian Wushuang muttered. He looked carefully at the scene in front of him and was completely mesmerized. Half a month later. Fog rain swordsmanship? What a unique swordsmanship. How can it be so unique in the use of space-time principles? Jian Wushuang was delighted. Although most of the principles masters in the true self-secret realm had left some things here, there were a few principles masters who left their proudest things here. For example, the silent swordsmanship of the sword origin master. The misty rain swordsmanship left by the principles master named Tu was a terrifying swordsmanship. It was also the strongest and most complete skill of the two principles masters. Jian Wushuang happened to be good at sword principle. These two swordsmanship were of great help to him. The true martial mystic realm, left behind by so many principles masters, is of great help to me. The time-space beast god, the heavenly bridge, the secret skill pavilion, and even the temporal tower are all of great help to me. In this life, I have been cultivating alone since I was born. I haven't joined a sect in the true sense of the word and used a lot of resources to cultivate. Now, there are many opportunities on the space-time island, and my talent in the space-time principles is also very high. Let me see how far I can reach in 300 years with the help of these resources on the space-time island. Jian Wushuang clenched his fists, his heart filled with anticipation. Jian Wushuang stayed on the time-space island and cultivated with the help of the many resources on the island. Time passed quickly, and in a flash 290 years had passed. Beside the lake, Temple Master Bai Xing, a black-clothed elder, stood beside Temple Master Bai Xing with a hint of respect between his brows. He said, "The 100,000-year deadline has passed. In another 10 years, the Blood Wave Realm will reopen." Blood Wave Realm. Palace Master Bai Xing pondered for a moment. The opportunities in the Blood Wave Realm are equivalent to a shortcut to the Principal's Master. Every time the Blood Wave Realm opens, there will be a large number of top-notch invincible saints heading over. Our temporal temple will have 5 spots to enter the Blood Wave Realm as usual. Have you chosen these 5 spots? I've already chosen them. The black-robed elder nodded, then handed a list to Temple Master Bai Xing. After taking it, Temple Master Bai Xing began to browse through it carefully. How he should be the strongest among the many invincible saints that our temporal temple had first. It's only natural that he would enter the Blood Wave Realm. Qian Hongzi is an invincible saint with extraordinary potential. If he obtains the opportunities in the Blood Wave Realm, his chances of becoming a Principal's Master would definitely exceed 90%. It wouldn't be a problem. Palace Master Bai Xing browsed through the names on the list one by one. Palace Master Bai Xing agreed with the first 4 names on the list until the last name. Duan Lang. Palace Master Bai Xing frowned slightly. Although Duan Lang has some talent, his strength is still lacking, right? Well, the black-clothed old man said in a low voice. Duan Lang's strength is now infinitely close to that of an invincible saint. He is indeed weaker than the other 4, but no one else seems to be more suitable than him to enter the Blood Wave Realm. There were indeed not many cultivators in the Temporal Temple, but there were actually some invincible saints in the Temporal Temple. However, most of the invincible immortal saints in the Temporal Temple had exhausted their potential. Even if they got the opportunity in the Blood Wave Realm, the chance of becoming a Principal's Master was very low. These invincible immortal saints were naturally not suitable to enter the Blood Wave Realm. Therefore, the black-clothed elder carefully selected Duan Lang and felt that he was more suitable. Among the immortal saints of the Temporal Temple, no one is more suitable to enter the Blood Wave Realm than Duan Lang, except for Hao and the other 3? Haha, I don't think so, Temple Master Bai Xing said with a mysterious smile. Didn't Bat Song bring a little guy back to our Temporal Temple 290 years ago? You mean Heavenly Sword Marquis? The black-clothed elder was stunned. The black-clothed elder was also a high-level official of the Temporal Temple. He was in charge of many things in the Temporal Temple, so he naturally knew about Jian Wushuang. Heavenly Sword Marquis is indeed very talented, but 290 years ago, when he first came to the Temporal Temple, he was only a rank 4 true saint. His battle strength was only around rank 7 true saint. Now only 290 years have passed. Even if he has made great progress with the help of the many opportunities on the Temporal Island, there is still a limit to how fast he can improve. In such a short time, his strength should not be comparable to Duan Lang, right? The black-clothed elder said. I can't say for sure. Palace Master Bai Xing smiled. I've been paying attention to Heavenly Sword Marquis ever since he entered my Temporal Temple. I've seen his progress in the past 290 years. When he first came to my Temporal Island 290 years ago, he challenged the Heavenly Bridge once, but he could only pass the 24th level. But after cultivating on our Spacetime Island for more than 200 years, which is 3 years ago, he already passed the 29th level. What? The black-robed elder was shocked. From the 24th level to the 29th level? In less than 300 years, he actually passed the 5th level? How is this possible? It's a bit unbelievable, but it's the truth, Palace Master Bai Xing said. He has passed the 29th level, which means his comprehension of the space-time principles has reached the 4th stage, and he has mastered teleportation. This level has surpassed the level of a rank 7 true saint, and is comparable to those immortal saints who are infinitely close to the invincible level. As for his own realm, he has made great progress in the past 290 years. As far as I know, his current realm has broken through to the level of a rank 6 true saint. Rank 6 true saint realm? The black-clothed elder's pupils constricted. 290 years ago, when Jian Wushuang first came to the Timespace Island, he was only a rank 4 peak true saint, but now he was already a rank 6 true saint. In other words, he had broken through 2 realms in less than 300 years. How can he improve so fast? The black-clothed elder could not understand. It's nothing strange. He is a super genius. As far as I know, he spent 50 years on the first floor of the temporal tower. The time flow there is 10 times slower. In other words, he stayed in the temporal tower for 500 years. With the help of some treasures, his understanding of the principles and Tao has long exceeded his realm. It's normal for him to break through to rank 6 true saint. Temple Master Bai Xing said. No wonder. The black-clothed elder also understood. In just 290 years, Jian Wushuang had made such great progress in the space-time principles and made such a great breakthrough in his realm. Of course, he would find it incredible. However, if Jian Wushuang had stayed in the temporal tower for 500 years, he would have broken through 2 realms in 500 years. 290 years ago, before Heavenly Sword Marquis came to my temporal tower, he was able to kill a rank 7 true saint with the strength of a rank 4 true saint. Now, he has reached the level of a rank 6 true saint, and with the help of the divine power fruit, he has reached the limit of a rank 6 true saint. His comprehension of the principles has allowed him to pass the 29th level of the heavenly bridge. How strong do you think he is now? Temple Master Bai Xing asked with a smile. I'm afraid he won't be weaker than Duan Lang, the black-robed elder said in a low voice. When he was a rank 4 true saint, he could kill a rank 7 true saint directly. Now that he had reached the limit of rank 6 and his comprehension of the principles had improved so much, his strength had definitely surpassed that of a rank 7 true saint. He might not be comparable to a true invincible saint, but he should be very close. That's it. Palace Master Bai Xing continued. In terms of talent, Heavenly Sword Marquis is much stronger than Duan Lang. Now that Heavenly Sword Marquis' strength can keep up, this last spot is naturally reserved for Heavenly Sword Marquis. Palace Master Bai Xing is right. The black-robed elder nodded. Clearly, he agreed. Opportunities were always for those who were capable. The spot to enter the Blood Wave realm was the same. Of course, what I just said is only my guess for the time being. Whether the true strength of the Heavenly Sword Marquis is equal to or stronger than Duan Lang is still uncertain. For the sake of the opportunity, countless top immortal saints in the Blood Wave realm fought fiercely and killed crazily. If the Heavenly Sword Marquis' strength doesn't meet the requirements, he naturally doesn't have the qualifications to enter. So, before the final quota is determined, I have to test this little guy's real strength. Temple Master Bai Xing smiled, his eyes flashing with a strange luster. In the true martial mystic realm on the Timespace Island, Jian Wushuang sat cross-legged under an iceberg, his consciousness completely immersed in the image of the iceberg. In the image, a white-clothed figure seemed to be transparent, flickering randomly in the void. In the blink of an eye, his figure constantly appeared in every corner of the void. It was obvious that the owner of the iceberg, the principal's master, had left behind a movement technique. This movement technique was very strange, and its use of the power of time and space was unfathomable. Every flicker of his was completely integrated with the surrounding space and time. The power of time and space is self-integrated with the space and time? So that's how it is? Jian Wushuang had been carefully watching the flashing white-clothed figure in the picture, but many insights had emerged in his heart. On the space-time rule, the difficult problem that had been troubling him for a long time was gradually solved. In a flash, more than half a day had passed. Suddenly, Jian Wushuang opened his eyes, and a fierce light suddenly flashed in them. The 4th stage of the space-time principles has been completed. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands, and there was an uncontrollable ecstasy in his heart. The 4th stage, yes, his comprehension of the space-time principles had only reached the 4th stage, which was also the last stage of the space-time principles. If he took another step, he would completely comprehend the space-time principles. He would become the master of the space-time principles. When Temple Master Bai Xing knew that Jian Wushuang had passed the 29th level of the Heavenly Bridge, he had said that his comprehension of the space-time principles had reached the 4th stage immediately. But now it seemed that he had not. Temple Master Bai Xing did not know that Jian Wushuang had passed the 29th level because his comprehension of the spacetime principles was very close to the 4th stage. The most important thing was his swordsmanship. In the past 290 years, with the help of the many resources on the time-space island, especially the scenes in the true martial mystic realm, his strength had improved by leaps and bounds, and his comprehension of the spacetime principles had greatly increased. At the same time, his swordsmanship had also improved. It was his swordsmanship. His swordsmanship had made great strides and even made a breakthrough. Because of this, his swordsmanship combined with his comprehension of the spacetime principles was able to pass the 29th level of the Heavenly Bridge. Now that I've entered the 4th stage of spacetime principles, my strength has soared again. If I combine my swordsmanship, I might even pass the 30th level of the Heavenly Bridge. Jian Wushuang was pleasantly surprised. In addition, as soon as he reached the 4th stage, he naturally mastered teleportation. He could also comprehend the 3rd move of the spacetime divine skill, spacetime teleportation, in the secret skill pavilion. Buzz! A figure suddenly appeared beside Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang turned his head. When he saw the person, he immediately bowed respectfully and said, "Temple Master Bai Xing, Heavenly Sword Marquis, judging from your pleasant surprise just now, you seem to have gained something big again?" Temple Master Bai Xing looked at Jian Wushuang. "A little." Jian Wushuang nodded with a smile. "It's indeed a good thing to have gained something, but do you still remember what I told you 290 years ago?" Temple Master Bai Xing said, "I told you to cultivate well and improve your strength as soon as possible. Maybe you can catch up with the event 300 years later." Jian Wushuang's expression changed. Of course, he remembered what Temple Master Bai Xing said. However, he did not know what Temple Master Bai Xing was referring to at that time. 300 years and now 290 years have passed. Temple Master Bai Xing, is that why you came here today? Jian Wushuang was looking forward to it. Yes. Temple Master Bai Xing smiled. The thing I'm talking about is the Blood Wave Realm. Blood Wave Realm. Jian Wushuang frowned. Obviously, he had never heard of it. The Blood Wave Realm is an extremely unique secret realm of heaven and earth in the divine beginning realm. It was created by an extremely ancient super expert. There are opportunities in the Blood Wave Realm. These opportunities are only useful to the immortal saint, and they are enough to make any immortal saint go crazy. Temple Master Bai Xing said. "Oh!" Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. "Enough to drive any immortal saint crazy? What kind of status and strength did Temple Master Bai Xing have? Since he dared to say so, he must have his reasons. The opportunities in the Blood Wave Realm must be extraordinary. However, the Blood Wave Realm only opens once every 100,000 years. Every time it opens, only the immortal saint is qualified to enter. As for the Principal's Master, he is completely excluded from the Blood Wave Realm. Every time the Blood Wave Realm opens, the sects of the divine beginning world will send their top immortal saints into it. There are also many independent immortal saints who can enter the Blood Wave Realm through some means. As for the Temporal Temple, it's one of the 3 freedom alliances in the divine beginning realm. Although there aren't many cultivators, we still have 5 slots to enter the Blood Wave Realm. 10 years later, the Blood Wave Realm will open again. Now, the Temporal Temple is selecting 5 people to enter the Blood Wave Realm. We've already decided on 4, but there's still 1 more slot. Temple Master Bai Xing said. Temple Master Bai Xing, do you mean I can fight for the last spot? Jian Wushuang asked. Yes. Temple Master Bai Xing nodded. As expected, the last spot will be decided between you and Duan Lang, another genius expert of the Spacetime Temple. Duan Lang is not only extremely talented, but his battle strength is also infinitely close to that of an invincible saint. But you have terrifying talent and great potential, which is not a problem. However, no one knows how strong your battle strength is, so I came here personally. Heavenly Sword Marquis, here is a scroll. Take a look. Temple Master Bai Xing said and threw a scroll to Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang took the scroll, opened it and read it carefully. When he finished reading the contents of the scroll, his expression became extremely strange. Experiential mission? Kill 13 axes? Little guy, you can take a closer look at this task. You have 10 years. In 10 years, before the opening of the Bloodwave realm, if you can complete the task alone, you can compete with Duan Lang for the last slot. But if you can't complete the task within 10 years, the last slot will be given to Duan Lang. Do you understand? Temple Master Bai Xing stared at Jian Wushuang. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded heavily. Remember, do it alone. I'll wait for your news. After saying that, Temple Master Bai Xing turned around and left. Jian Wushuang looked at the mission scroll in front of him and fell into deep thought. According to Temple Master Bai Xing, the Bloodwave realm only opens once every 100,000 years. The opportunity contained in it is enough to make any immortal saint go crazy. In other words, this opportunity must be very useful to me. If I miss it, I have to wait another 100,000 years before I get a second chance. Jian Wushuang frowned slightly. 100,000 years was too long. He had only appeared in this life for about 1,000 years. Naturally, he could not wait another 100,000 years for nothing. I must seize this opportunity. I must complete this experiential mission. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands. However, Temple Master Bai Xing has given me a 10-year time limit, so there's no need to rush. I've just reached the 4th stage of comprehending the space-time principles and have just mastered teleportation. Before I complete the mission, I'll go to the secret skill pavilion and comprehend the space-time teleportation first. Jian Wushuang made up his mind and immediately went to the secret skill pavilion. On the 3rd floor of the secret skill pavilion, Jian Wushuang sat cross-legged in front of the 7 tall stone tablets. Looking at the stone tablets in front of him, Jian Wushuang's eyes were full of anticipation. Let's begin. Soon, Jian Wushuang closed his eyes and began to comprehend. Time passed. In the blink of an eye, 1 year and 4 months had passed. For many people, 1 year was just a snap of the fingers. However, for Jian Wushuang, he had already comprehended the 3rd move of the space-time divine skill, space-time teleportation. This was also related to his talent in space-time. After all, he could comprehend the space-time divine skill from the space-time gold stone. According to Temple Master Bai Xing, it was more difficult to comprehend it from the space-time gold stone than from the 7 stone tablets in the secret skill pavilion. I've mastered space-time teleportation. With this move, I can use it and escape quickly no matter what crisis I encounter. Even if the other party uses space-time seal, it won't be of much use to me. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands. His eyes sparkled. I'm a perfect chaotic creature. My life-saving and survival abilities are already amazing. Now, with this move, there are only a handful of people in the divine beginning realm who can kill me. Even if it's the 3 saint realms and the sorcerer god sect, it won't be easy for them to kill me again. Jian Wushuang growled with a hint of heroism in his heart. After a while, he calmed down. I have comprehended space-time teleportation. Now, it's time to complete the experiential learning task. Immediately, Jian Wushuang set off. 9th Wolf Mountain Range in the first sky. Although it was called a mountain range, the territory of the 9th Wolf Mountain Range was vast, even larger than a country. Such a large mountain range had been occupied by the 13 axes for a long time. The 13 axes were the collective name for the 13 experts in the 9th Wolf Mountain Range. These 13 experts were all bandits, but because of their tyrannical strength, their deterrence was no longer comparable to that of ordinary bandits. In the surrounding areas of the 9 Wolf Mountain Range, and even in the entire First Heaven, the 13 axes were notorious. According to the mission given to me by Temple Master Bai Xing, the weakest of the 13 experts of the 13 axes are at the peak of rank 7 True Saint. The eldest one, Blood Eagle, and the second one, Violent Bear, are both above rank 7 and are infinitely close to the invincible saint realm. Jian Wushuang appeared alone in the 9 Wolf Mountain Range. Looking at the vast mountain range in front of him, he frowned slightly. The mission Temple Master Bai Xing had given him was to prove his strength and that he was qualified to enter the Bloodwave realm. Therefore, this mission was not easy. 13 axes, 13 experts, and the weakest one was a rank 7 peak True Saint. In addition, there were 2 immortal saints who were infinitely close to the invincible level. This lineup could be said to be terrifying. Even the overlords in the first heaven, such as the 12 divine sects, did not have an invincible saint in most of the 12 divine sects. Without an invincible saint with the combined strength of the top forces under their command, they would not be able to compete with the 13 axes. Even the 9 courtyards, with the invincible saint in charge, did not dare to provoke the 13 axes because the combined strength of the 13 axes was indeed too strong. Jian Wushuang's task was to kill all the 13 axes. The 13 axes have occupied the Nine-Wolf Mountain range for hundreds of thousands of years. Over the years, they have plundered and committed many evil deeds. Many countries and even some small sects in the Nine-Wolf Mountain range have been oppressed by the 13 axes. They deserve to die, but it's not easy to kill all the 13 axes. Jian Wushuang frowned. This task was indeed challenging for him, but it was not impossible for him to complete it. I have been cultivating in the temporal temple for 290 years, and my strength has changed a lot. These 13 axes are so powerful. They are really a good grindstone for me. Jian Wushuang's eyes were shining, and then his body flashed. He directly rushed into the depths of the Nine-Wolf Mountain range. The 13 experts in the Nine-Wolf Mountain range did not live together, but they were scattered and each occupied a mountain peak. Normally, the 13 axes would only gather together occasionally, but they usually lived on their own mountain peaks. At this moment, Jian Wushuang had arrived at a mountain peak of the 13 axes through the star map of the Nine-Wolf Mountain range. According to the star map, this mountaintop has always been occupied by the Nether Cloud King, who is ranked 8th among the 13 axes. His strength is only average among the 13 axes. I'll be the first to attack him, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. Then, he moved his consciousness. Buzz! A terrifying power instantly erupted from his body. This power swept out in all directions, and in the blink of an eye, layers of enormous barriers appeared in the surrounding void. This barrier was like an iron bucket, surrounding all directions, not leaving a single crack. Sovereign Seal, Sovereign of Spacetime,